jobs.
Yes, you can.
That's really important.
Stick a hand out to people that work and ask them. Stick a hand out.
I'll be at it.
Positions. A lot of these are first classers and stars.
Stick a hand out and ask for work.
Sure, I will.
Did you want to go buzz in Robin's ear?
For jobs.
That's where Nathan's at. Another job.
Well, that's really quiet. When they get up there,
Because he's done all the jobs he needs.
He did everything that he was. Yeah.
What about when you
Oh. No, I'm down yet.
I thought he still had to do another one.
Price Road, and that's 6 hours.
Oh, no. No, I wish I was. My music talent is gone.
Okay, well, I guess.
You may have seen me on TV, I had a TV show
I
for
never
13 years.
yes.
That's where I remember.
I tell people when I call politicians, politicians, do a very job, somebody's got to talk to them.
So when they do Wednesday in the summer, then they can spend the summer.
Got a kidney transplant about 2 years ago.
That's what I was.
Amazing. I would agree with you.
You
Yeah.
can't.
I think the part is true. Well, I guess I was saying that time as you. Because this is where here's came on. I would say that I don't think it was more structure of the leadership position. Is that not true? Yeah. I mean, so there's the history, it's not just straight measure bait. So there's the all these guys, all these 11 or 12. I agree. They're really showing up. And they are all all want to be here. Well, we talked about that. I feel like you need to be bad at least 3 out of 4. Come on. That's my preference. 42 years I've never been to St. So Dimitri, do you know what your goal is today during this meeting?
He can say words.
No. To identify issues there's more than one point to be presented and decide which point you because that is, if you look at the requirement number 3, is if the tenants are counted, listen for a point of view, an important issue where there's more than one view expressed, and say which view will be what should we do for 3 and 4? So this is your second city council meeting? But maybe we'll be able to get 4 scheduled from this. Well, we were hoping to work on 4 as well. Jennifer's one of those. Yes, we did the tour. The Willie Shop being late. right place, wrong day. So we did that Sunday ourselves. And then when I'm at work, they give me inspiration. Someone who made a difference in their community. When I did the MOCA, which I think we're doing, have you done 5? 4 skills, they're like suggested 4 skills. Yes, what's the deal on that? Yeah. Everyone has to do a presentation. I think if you want to the only one I know is 4 of. Do you do it also? So 5 and 5. Good idea. Well, and then they also do a volunteer service day, right? For something you may want.
All you gotta do is mention money and budget, boy, the devotional flying.
This is actually a doozy of a miracle. It is famous. Our boys for the summer of 16. So all 3 of them finished. Because we did it, I was thinking it's miles, not watching it.
Let's go and get started, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here today. What we're going to do is go through our agenda and talk about any changes, any issues we have to follow the agenda, and then we're going to start our regular meeting. Early on, we take public comment. We will have public comment on any subject you would like. If any commissioner wants to have public comment on any of the new business, traditionally we do not do that, not because we're not interested, of course, in schools and the budget presentation, but generally the way we try to do this, ladies and gentlemen, is to present all the information we want to hear. We see Dr. Baldwin, we see the other Dr. Baldwin somewhere, and we see Dr. King here. We like to get all the information, and then we'll have subsequent meetings where we will take public comment on all of this. And then after we have public comment, then we'll have a third meeting where we go through and actually vote and make decisions. But tonight is listening. We're here to hear from our wonderful 3 school systems that we are involved with and responsible for in the building facilities. And we are very interested in what you have to say. But there will not be public comment tonight on that unless the commissioner insists on that. There will be public comment once everybody presents at our next meeting. And so that's when we're going to hear from people. And then there'll be yet another meeting before we make a final decision. We want it out there. So this is step 1 of the 3-step process. And we thank you for being here and have some wonderful presentations today. So any questions about that? All right, well, let's go through the agenda and see if we're for any changes here. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. We have an ethics reminder, and then we have public comment. And again, any subject you're welcome to talk about, including the budget, although there'll be at least 2 more opportunities to do that. Actually, there'll be 3 more opportunities. There'll be 2 more general public comment sessions, and then we'll have a specific public comment on the public hearing and subsequent comment on the budget that we're considering after tonight once we get it winded down. Okay, we have anything on the consent agenda that anybody wants to change or talk about in more detail?
Yes,
Yes,
the airport grant, I'd like for Ms. Green, Dr. Green, to explain that to the public. I know it's a pretty positive thing. I think probably we don't need to vote on it right now. I just wanted to explain it.
Okay,
Let them know
good.
what's going on, okay?
Okay, why don't we just get why don't we just have her make a presentation, we'll vote on it separate, that's fine. It's just
That's fine, yeah, that's fine.
But I think the intent to have good news out there is important. Any other items people would like to change or rearrange? Okay, we have good news proclamations. Everything's good news with schools, and we're glad to see all the great our school partners and friends here. I see a lot of members of the boards. We thank you for being here, and I'll ask your respective presidents and superintendents to introduce you at the right time. We thank you for coming. We thank you for your public service. No county manager's report. All right, no public hearings. Again, we will have public hearings at a later meeting on all the school and all the rest of our budgets. This first step of it is to get information, and we want to, we kind of dedicate this meeting toward getting presentations and answering the questions the board members may have. So we start off with Dr. Dennis King in AB Tech. Good to see you. We'll have you in just a minute, and you'll lead off. I was checking, you're listening.
You're ready.
You got it.
You're ready.
He is on top of it. Thank you, Dr. Good to see you, sir. Next, we have the Buncombe County school presentation. And I don't see, is Tony Baldwin hiding behind a pole or something there? Who's going to give that for the
He's on the way up.
He's
On the way up. He will be here. And thank you. Dr. Tony Baldwin will give that one. And then for Asheville City Schools, we have the other Dr. Baldwin, Dr. Pam Baldwin. Good to see you, Dr. Baldwin, and look forward to hearing your presentation. And I would ask that all of you introduce your personnel and your board members when you come up, because we thank them for being here. And then we have the overall county budget that will incorporate some of the school. We kind of do it. The General Assembly puts us in an unusual position because they actually ask both the schools, and I think y'all will talk about this, to do budgets before they do a state budget, which makes it very difficult for all three of you to project what's going to happen, because your state money is, of course, a big part of your budget. But we do the best we can, and we will be hearing from Dr. Green about the Buncombe County budget as we have prepared it to this point. And there will be changes, there will be some differences between this and the final budget that is actually adopted. And then we go to announcements, and we have a closed session tonight. Okay. All right, so does anybody have any objections other than pulling up the resolution authorizing the county manager to execute agreements for the airport? Anything else? All right, and I will, we have some absences tonight. I will cover that when we get started on the record. All right, let's go ahead. I got 4:30, so let's go ahead and get started unless anybody has any other questions. I'd like to call to order the May 31, 2016 meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners, and we will begin with Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And if you'd join me in prayer. Yesterday, our country recognized the men and women who have died in military service. Most experts estimate that over 1.3 million people have died in all American wars and battles since we became a nation. Let us take this week, not just the day, to honor these heroes by telling their story, appreciating the freedom and liberty and legacies they've left with us, and supporting their desire to keep our nation an open and powerful symbol of human rights, opportunities for all, and a place where each citizen can succeed regardless of where they start out in life. While we pray that no other young man or woman will have to pay the ultimate sacrifice as they defend our country, we understand that the USA will remain a target for those who wish to take away these rights and freedoms that we've earned over our history. Bless our military, our law enforcement, and our citizens. Keep them safe from harm's way. And thank you for this privilege of living in a place that honors men and women of valor and bravery, such as the men and women we honor on Memorial Day and Memorial Week. Amen. In accordance with our code of ethics adopted by the Commission, all county commissioners have the duty to obey all applicable laws regarding our official actions, to uphold the integrity and independence of the office, and to avoid impropriety in the exercise of our official duties, to faithfully perform the duties of the office, and to conduct the affairs of our governing board in an open and public manner. Is there any item on the agenda the outcome of which would have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable impact, financially or otherwise, for any board member? Also, does any board member have any financial interest in any public contract coming before the commission today? Hearing none, I find that none of the board members have a conflict, and each of the board members have a duty and obligation to vote on all matters. We have 5 people up here tonight. We have 7 commissioners. We have unusual circumstance that I'll just briefly mention. Commissioner Jones, who's normally seated to my right, her father is very ill. She is out on family business, family emergency. We'd ask that you keep her in your prayers and thoughts as her family goes through difficult times. Commissioner DeBrule has submitted a letter of resignation on May the 16th of this year. We wish her well. She is leaving due to business opportunities that require her immediate departure. We will be looking forward to seating another individual in her seat. It's my understanding that the Republican Executive Committee will be making that decision, and this board will ratify their decision. The person taking that seat, as I understand it, will serve until November, and then there'll be an election afterwards. Is that right, Madam Manager? So we wish Miranda Burl the best. She was a wonderful commissioner, and we will miss her, but we will be replacing her probably by the next meeting. That will be up to the Republican Executive Committee. So we got 5 of us, and 5's a quorum, so we'll get going. The next matter of business is public comment. The time limit for comments to the commission is 3 minutes. If your time expires, you may leave any question along with your name, address, email, and phone number with the county manager. Commissioners are not expected to comment on matters during public comment. It's your time to talk to us. Comments should be limited to subjects that are within the jurisdiction of the commission or pertain to matters upon which we may act. Any individual speaking during public comments shall address the entire commission. Any polling of board members is inappropriate. Persons addressing the commission are expected to observe the decorum of the chamber and to be respectful of everyone in the room, whether you agree with their opinions or their statements or not. Any person who willfully interrupts, disturbs, or disrupts the session will be asked to leave the meeting. And the commission deserves the right to deny any public address on any subject that's previously been presented to our board. We're open for public comment. If anyone would like to speak, please come up to the podium and we will hear from you. So any members, Mr. Yelton? Any other members of the public wish to be heard tonight? Yes, sir, in the third row. You can just come on up and sit on the first row. Anyone else? Gentleman in the blue shirt. Mr. Rice, you'll be third. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Yaw. Thank you.
Well, I wanted to come because of what I'm seeing in the news and what I'm hearing. First and foremost, the money the county makes is determined based upon the tax rate and the evaluation of the property. We've already heard that property revals in Buncombe County are anywhere from 20 to 50% lower than the actual value. So we're going to have a reval. Now, we didn't have the reval when this thing was going this way for a good while. Now that it's going this way, we want to have the reval immediately. And that, in effect, if you keep the tax rate the same, which I understand we're going to plan on doing, is going to increase the money this county is going to take in by 20 to 50%. Now, we say we're doing it for the kids, but then I also look further and I see that it's going to be got so much percent to the teachers and so much to the higher paid people and the people that have been here the longest. And it was my understanding that Buncombe County's tax supplement was to go to attract good teachers at the entry level and not pay administration a higher percentage than the beginning teachers are going to get, which is almost double for the administration. So it looks like we got some people lining their pocket. Also, I want to share this with you. I'm doing everything that I can to have a little extra income. When you get 65, you got to have it. Y'all know that. Social Security don't take care of it. And I'm trying to have affordable rent, and I'm renting 2-bedroom houses in the country from $700 to $1,100. Right across from me is a green field that now has high-dollar houses in it, and someone from up north, and I won't mention the state, moved there a year ago, and they didn't have their social clubs, and we weren't up classy enough for them. They lived in that house for a year and sold it for $100,000 more than they paid for it. Now, when you consider your reval, I think you need to look at the use of that property, because I'm fighting like Hades to provide affordable living for people and let it supplement me a little bit. But I can tell you, when you build the house and you pay the taxes and you pay the insurance on it, there ain't nothing left to have affordable rent. So if you're serious about that, I think every last one of you need to think about what I'm saying, and I'll show you the numbers, because the only reason I can do it is I'd rather have my money in that house than in the bank. It doesn't give you much of a return. So remember that. Doesn't make any difference what you say about the rate. It's the property reval, that's the money.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yaw. Yes, sir. And Mr. Rice will be after this gentleman. Yes, sir.
Good evening, County Commissioners. I'm Timothy Sapler. I reside in Weaverville. And first, I'd like to thank Chairman Gant for your remarks yesterday at the Memorial Day ceremony. It was moving, to say the least. And also want to take opportunity to thank my grandfather for his service in World War II. Archie Lawson was a sergeant major in World War II. But what brings me out tonight is a concern that I have regarding the potential precedent that may be set with former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and her using a private server. I am so disturbed by the idea that she may not be taken seriously by the Justice Department because of political cronyism. The potential precedent that would be set would be that a county chair, I'm not suggesting anybody up here would do this, but they would take it into their hands to set up their own server and disclose what information they feel is relevant. We need to do the difficult thing and build the political will to hold Ms. Clinton's feet to the fire. And this is stemming from the State Department's report. I hope everyone's familiar with the democratically controlled State Department's report last week that says she was in defiance of the rules. Nobody was aware of what she was doing, and that she has been far from truthful with the American public. I am calling on you, elected officials, to reinforce what I'm saying up the chain. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sadler. Mr. Rice, would anyone like to speak after Mr. Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Glad you got to see me again. Well, you know, I'm for the poor. I'm for the children too, but I'm for the adults as well. In Buncombe County, we have a mixture of several things going on. One that disturbs me is we are probably the worst in the nation, or about the fourth, for poor kids that can't perform after they get out of the school system here. That's what I feel really hurt about. David, you remember the article back March 4th of 14 in the New York Times that they brought that out about Buncombe County. Now, you've got poor adults as well. You've got kids in the school system right here in Buncombe County in the city of Asheville that cannot get what they need. And we're talking about special education children. We're talking about kids that are forgotten, that's put in the back room and forgotten, or on a long, lonely hallway away from everybody else. Now, if you think I'm lying, just go visit a few places and you'll see. Now, if you're going to appropriate money, which I don't have a question in my mind that these folks are going to get exactly what they want, and I'm not against that as long as it's used properly. But the misuse of our kids with special needs is a travesty in Buncombe County. I'm not talking about the handful that gets special privilege by being honored by special parents or carrying cookies to school or their funding propositions that they get to do. I ain't talking about those. I'm talking about the people that are forgotten. Let me tell you, there's plenty of them. Now, go to another subject. The tax rate. I could not get the information, even if I sent it to Mr. Gant, I sent it to you other commissioners. I have still yet to get the information from Buncombe County on the tax ratio from Buncombe County. I was blocked by the attorney, by the chairman, and other members. I still haven't got that information. Now, the other thing about rebound, you had an attorney over here, and I'm going to repeat it again, to say you could not bring this rebound back up for 100 days, and you've done it again. You've done it anyway. You let Ms. Green override the attorney's decision, and the chairman agreed with it, or it couldn't have got on the agenda. If you expect us to obey the law as citizens, why don't you do the same? This ain't the only policy you're in violation of. You're in violation of other policies. I'll bring them back later. But there needs to be something done. We're having to build a justice center because of abused and neglected children right here in Asheville. And there's something bigger about this story than just talking about money.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment tonight? You'll have more opportunities. All right. Next up, we have, is there a motion to follow the agenda as it's presented with the exception of hearing, I'll put it after new business, the resolution authorizing county manager to execute agreements for the Asheville Regional Airport. Is there a motion to follow the agenda with that exception of moving that after new business?
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Frost, second by Commissioner Belcher. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And the motion is adopted by a 5-0 vote. We have 2 vacancies tonight. We are going to skip good news, county manager, and public hearings, and go straight to Dr. Dennis King. Here, it is your time. Thank you so much. Dr. King, of course, is president of Asheville Buncombe Community Technical Community College, and we are thrilled to have you here. It's always good to see you. Dennis, and thank you for your great work over there at the wonderful college.
Thank you. I appreciate your service over the years, and I appreciate your comments about our college. We certainly try to make sure that we are serving the community well. I want to introduce to you Beth Gentry, who's the business manager of the Facilities and Operations Department of the college. She's the one who really deals with the county budget. She's here to make sure that I don't make any mistakes tonight. I want to thank you, start by thanking you for the wonderful projects that we've been able to complete within the last 2 years with the quarter-cent sales tax money. We have specifically completed the Ferguson Allied Health and Public Service building, the Mission AD Tech Conference Center, and a parking garage. And a little vignette that you may appreciate. Annually, we ask our students how we're doing. We do a survey of the students, and we get about anywhere between 30 and 40% of the students to comment on a 1 to 5 scale. On the 1 to 5 scale, we went up by 1 full point this year in parking. Awesome. Great parking garage.
It's been a long haul. We're glad to be part of it.
Yeah, that's a tough group.
That's right, that's right. Presently, we are working on a classroom building, and that will be, we're in the design phase on that, and that building should be underway probably by the end of the year or early in the next year. Special thanks to Dr. Green and to John Creighton. These folks have worked wonderfully with us over the last 2 years to make sure that all of these projects come off as well as they have. We've been trying to cut and save every way that we can. We closed during the month of September this year the Haynes Tower at the Enka property, which was basically not being utilized to its fullest extent, and we could take all those people and put them elsewhere. Regardless of what you hear, there is no problem with that property under the Haynes Center, and we felt that we could close it down and move the individuals elsewhere, and in doing so we have saved about $500,000 on utilities on that building. We've also eliminated a little over 12 positions, I believe it's 14 now, that were in our table of organization. A few years ago, we went from 430 employees down by 14 employees. That saved us another $500,000 in salaries. So we're doing everything that we can to be good stewards of not only the county's money, but also the state's money. Philanthropy has been something that has helped us. The Fergusons, Carolyn and Jack Ferguson, gave to us $1 million for each of 5 years. That's a total of $5 million. This is the largest cash donation given to a community college in the nation. And they received an award for that about 1.5 years ago. We are using some of the Ferguson money this year, $1 million of it from the check that came in this year, and in January we will receive another $1 million, and we're going to use a little bit of that to finish the 4th floor of the Allied Health building. You may recall that of that 5-story building, 3.5 stories are completed. 1.5 floors are not completed. So we're finishing the 4th floor with the Ferguson money this year. Mission Hospital has joined us in our conference center. They are providing us with $1 million over a 10-year period for the naming rights of that building. And this is the first time that AV Tech has ever had a building named for anybody other than a human being or a plant. And now we will have the Mission Health AV Tech Conference Center. And we will be using some of that money to help us with county, with various issues this financial year, this fiscal year. We were given, through the generosity of the voters, $5.4 million in the bond referendum that will be starting to come to us this August. That money is going to allow us to do major repairs on the buildings and essentially to save money for Buncombe County. $4.5 million right now has been set aside for repairs on facilities on our campus, and the rest of the money will be spent on the Madison County campus. So again, the voters have helped us now by providing us with this money so that we can do repairs on the buildings without having to come to the county commission for that help in the future. And so we're down to our needs this year. We have asked for $6.3 million over this year, and that compares to $6 million last year. We have asked for an additional $333,000. Most of that will be necessary for utilities on the various campuses because we have added square footage to the college. We now have a little bit over 1 million square feet that we are heating and air conditioning, etc. So that is our request. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for working so much with the Fergusons and all the other folks. That's really great. Any questions, board? All right.
Yeah, I've got one. You might take a moment and tell us a little bit about your enrollment and how that's going, and you could.
Thank you. I'm glad you asked that because enrollment is doing very nicely for the fall. We have already started. We start in April registering for the fall semester, and today, comparing apples to apples, I believe we're about 65 days away from the start of 65 school days away from the start of school in the fall. We are up by about 55 students. So that's a considerable number. More importantly, the FTEs, the amount of money we get per student is likewise up by about 20 FTE. And every FTE is worth about $6,000 to the college, depending on how the General Assembly funds it. Summer enrollment is likewise up, and that is very good for us. Summer enrollment is much smaller than the fall. Fall enrollment will be, we're hoping to be about 7,500 students. Summer enrollment is always smaller, but I believe we may break 3,000 students this summer, which is again a very healthy number. One of the wonderful things that the General Assembly has done for us this year is for the first time ever, they are funding us for summer instruction. In the past, we were funded for fall and spring, and we had to operate the summer on the money that we made in fall and spring. It's like if you were a businessman having a business that you shut down every summer for 3 months. Well, that is now no longer the case. We will be able to earn FTE from the state during the summer, and we're doing very nicely in that direction, as I said. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Thank you.
I just have one question too.
Yes, ma'am.
What, great about the enrollment, is there an average of graduation? How many people start to how many people graduate, or does it vary from program to program?
It varies from program to program, and that's partially because of the students' desire. Let me give you an example. over 45% of our students are in university transfer programs. We tell the public, we tell these students, you're not being trained to do anything like a nurse or a surgical technician or what have you. You're being trained to go to a university and finish your degree. About 40% of our students are, 40 to 45%, are in transfer programs. Many of those students, to be honest with you and to be very frank, don't want to be at the community college. They want to be at the university. And so as soon as they start showing good grades with us, they have 1 or 2 semesters of A's and B's, they are sometimes lifted away from us by the university. So our completion rate in that sector of the college is not nearly as good as our completion rate in programs such, again, as nursing. In nursing this year, we started a cohort 2 years ago that moved through the curriculum together, and of that cohort, about 95% of them will finish, and we expect to have 100% pass rate on the NCLEX, the nursing licensure exam. You understand that without that, you can't practice.
So is that for specific programs, EMTs or different
Yes.
programs, is that a pretty consistent level of graduation?
No, it varies.
Okay.
From the more industrial programs have a lesser completion rate. I'm talking about welding, for example. We have a lesser completion rate because oftentimes these individuals can get a job with what they've gotten in their first semester, and they will take that job and never finish the degree. What we are looking at now, therefore, is certificates, short-term packages where a student in welding or in machining can get 2 or 3 courses and be ready to go out into the world, and we'll give them a certificate. Now, that's not a college degree or diploma,
Right, sure.
but it is a package that shows they've completed something with us.
All right,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
that, great question.
That's a good problem to have,
Yeah.
get hired away like that, get a job. But we thank you for working. I know that former Representative Ramsey works with you a lot on the workforce development. I happen to be on that, and that's just wonderful to hear the good things you're doing with them to help people find jobs and match people up with jobs that are available and pay good money, so.
We believe that this fall, if everything falls into place, we will be teaching machining at Asheville High. And there are about 20 students, I believe that's the number, that we can give these machining classes to that will get them a certificate when they graduate from high school. And they can carry that certificate out into, as you know, Mr. Fryer, excellent jobs in machining.
That's great. Well, thank you for
Thank you again.
looking ahead like that. Any other questions or comments? We're proud of our community college. Thank you. Hear from Dr. Tony Baldwin about the Buncombe Schools budget presentation. Dr. Baldwin, number one, good to have you here. We'll hear from Dr. Baldwin, number 2, in a minute. And I appreciate, I'll just say as he's coming up, we thank all of you. I've noticed an unusually strong camaraderie between the 3 superintendent and presidents, and we thank you for that. It's not like that in a lot of counties. I have had the occasion to talk with other counties, and there's not that friendship and working together like the project you spoke about, President King, and some of the projects I know that Dr. Baldwin does with you. That's great. And because at the end of the day, we just want people to get good jobs and get the best education they have. So thank you. Dr. Baldwin.
Chairman Gann, I'd just like to take a second to echo that. I want to thank Dr. King and AB Tech because it's just incredible for both of our school systems, the number of students that increases every year with college course credits through AB Tech. And as Dr. King mentioned, I think the best is yet to come. So I know that's a lot of work and coordination, but we really do appreciate that part.
And Tony, can I get you to introduce your school board members and your staff that's here? I want to make sure that they've taken their time to come here, and we appreciate all of their public service, both working with the schools and being elected officials and making some of that call.
Absolutely. I better make sure I get these names right, too. They're a little embarrassing.
I I set a low bar. I think I've messed about everybody's name up through the years.
First off, Madam Chair, Ann Franklin's here with us, Vice Chair Chip Craig, Representative Pat Wright, Representative Cindy McMahon, Representative Amy Churchill, Representative Max Queen, and I know Representative Dusty Pless is out there somewhere monitoring this, so appreciate all of them. I want to begin this presentation, and I know the numbers may be a little bit difficult out for the audience to see, so I'll be trying to highlight the main ones. And I really want to just start this presentation with 5 very basic budget slides, because our K-12 school budgets are sort of a unique animal, per se. And the first thing I want to show you from Buncombe County Schools is the per pupil expenditure. In other words, where are the revenue sources, and for pupil to pupil, what does that represent? And we do not have yet 15-16's current year's numbers. That will come from DPI fairly soon, but so I had to go back to 14-15. And I compared it all the way back to 2010-11. And there's some real patterns here. Number one, you'll see that our per pupil expenditure in 14-15 was $8,386 per student. Now, there's 115 school systems in North Carolina. That total expenditure ranked 68 out of 115. But I'm going to give the commissioners something to really brag and be proud of. And that is, if you'll look at the local per pupil expenditure, you will see that $2,252 is ranked in this state as 25th. And I think that's something to be really proud of. And if you follow that all the way back to 2010-11, I think the pattern is such that this Board of Commissioners has supported both school systems extremely strong. So we thank you for that. You'll also see in this chart just the real heavy dependence, and I'll show you a couple more slides, on state funds. And we'll talk a little bit about the timetable. And you've heard me say this before, the dilemma of when we provide you a projected budget and when we actually see the final state figures. And you're also going to see the pattern of a decreasing federal funding that's being provided to our school system. This is a little bit easier to see, this bar graph, but once again, what it really emphasizes is the continued high dependency we have on our state funds. They are in blue. And we also, as a result of the federal funds, in red, as you see, they decrease. And back in 2010-11, that was when we saw stimulus and stabilization. But as all good federal funds do, they come in like the Marines, and then at some point in time they are gone. So those federal funds are gone. But as a result, you can see the dependence then, increased dependence to you for local funding to help us continue to balance our budget. Pie graph, again, a little bit easier to see. And this is current. By the way, this is as of April of this current year. And again, a heavy dependence upon state funding. 64% of our funds for Buncombe County schools, operating Buncombe County schools, comes from the state. 8% from the federal. That's probably our lowest in a long, long time. And then 28%, which is certainly a fairly high number in comparison across the years from our local. Again, that is current. The next slide I'm going to show you, again, gives that comparison between years. And if you go back to 2011 and 12, again, you can see how that federal funding in red was much, much higher. And then what happened, again, as we moved into 14-15, you see the decrease in federal, the increase in state, and the increased dependency that we had on our local funding. Just another way to look at it. I think the real key right here, though, is the decrease in federal funds. And again, we've got to find ways to maintain the sustainability even when those funds are withdrawn. This is just a reminder that since 2009-10 in the recession, and since that time, we made budget our budget strategies included either eliminating or absorbing 167 positions across Buncombe County schools. Now, we're quite large, so what has helped us in terms of addressing that is attrition. But again, those cuts have never come back to us. We're still struggling to pick up with better budget figures. We also, and again, I want to thank the commissioners, because we came to you, I believe it was 2 years ago, and essentially our teacher assistants were on the table. The state was going to eliminate those positions, and you came through for us, through county manager and commissioners, and we were able to retain those people, and they are extremely valuable. I think every single person up here has been in our classroom, so you know what they mean. So, but again, we've had to reduce hours there in order to maintain the budget. Okay, as I present our initial local budget request for 16-17, there is clearly an overriding pattern, and the overall pattern is in personnel. It's whether additional local positions are needed to open a school, or whether we need assistance in supplementing those staff that are locally paid, because we all anticipate that state salary increases will be coming. The question is how much? And so for those locally paid employees, they certainly deserve to see that same raise. For intermediate school, and I think you as commissioners, you're going to be invited to our opening ceremony, and it will be a model for the state. And I think it will truly be something that the Inca District is going to be so proud of. We're asking for $1,349,400 to open that. Now, when we open a new school, why are we asking for local funds? The bottom line is the state never truly funds all the positions needed to run the school system. They fund the core, which is your English, your language arts, your math, your science, your social studies, but when you get into what we call unified arts, such as health and PE, such as arts, the fine arts, such as AP courses, we have to come to you to ask for help. And we believe strongly that for that Inca district, they deserve, and those kids deserve, when they open those doors, to have the same curriculum opportunities that we have at North Windy Ridge in the North Buncombe district, at Coons in the Robertson district. So that's why we are coming to you to ask for assistance. And that represents 23 positions at Inca Intermediate, that is both certified and classified. We are also in year 3 coming up for the Nesbitt Discovery Academy. And if you recall, that was a school that began with 100 freshmen. They now have an additional 100 sophomores, and next year they'll open the doors and they'll have 300 students total. Because of the way we adjusted the curriculum, and again back to Dennis King and AV Tech, every one of those students thus far has had some type of AV Tech course for college credit. Isn't that awesome? And so as they go into their junior year, it's time that we provide them to make sure that they have opportunities for those elective courses as well. And I gotta take this opportunity because I am going to be in Raleigh on Thursday morning at the State Board of Education meeting, and Nesbitt Discovery Academy will be recognized as a STEM school of distinction. And they are only one of 3 high schools in the state of North Carolina. So when you think about it, they're not even fully enrolled, that they're going to receive that distinction. So I think it's just an indication of how successful that is. What we're going to ask for, again, in this primary request is what we come to you almost every year for. When the state salary increases, again, we have to do the very best we can to project what they're going to look like. Remember, May 15th is the deadline when we provide that budget request to you, and we still don't know. If you're keeping up with the Senate proposal for considerably raising the teacher salary. We are all in support of that, yet we really don't know what that's going to look like in terms of those raises. So we estimated 5%, 3%. I think Dr. Baldwin did the same for Asheville City, but we don't yet know. And that represents $1,528,000. And the third section, to again, the primary request of the operating budget, is also something that I think we come to you every single year because the state increases the employer's matching retirement rate and the employer's matching health insurance. Well, once again, we're not sure what that percentage is going to be. In fact, I think all across the state, we got thrown a bit of a curveball because the House budget actually went from 15.65, which we received from DPI, to 16.5. So again, what will we see with the Senate budget, and then what will be the agreement between the governor, the House, and the Senate? So that remains, but we need your help. The final request in there is the home-based product. What does that mean? If you have children or grandchildren, that's the parent portal. We have moved to a one-on-one initiative, and this is the technology piece that we're so excited about, because this makes that direct connection with the school, the classroom teacher, and the home. So we're requesting assistance with that as well. And that totals out, that third component, to $294,265 total. What we are requesting, again, in the primary budget, operating budget, is $3,371,504. I'm going to stop right there, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best. I have brought my entourage with me. I've got every director I could bring from central office, so if a question comes in I can't answer, I'll try to point out, bring the experts in.
Are those going to be new jobs, or will you transfer some out of schools?
That is a very good
jobs,
question, Mr. Belcher. We will, for the intermediate school, that will be transfers, that we will have some transfers that will come in from their current 5th and 6th grade classrooms, but this completes the entire staffing pattern.
So will those, so these are 23 new jobs?
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
the other, if they left
certified and
another,
classified.
okay, if they left another school, that position is filled there.
Right,
Okay, so it's
right. We just account for that with the intermediate. Now, with nested discovery, that's different. Those would be new positions. There's 3 of them that we're requesting.
I think that's something that we don't want to miss, is the fact that, this ask of funding here will generate 23 new jobs.
Right. Yes, sir.
Just like people come in and ask for incentives for various
Yes, sir.
things, and we calculate the jobs, we calculate the return. There will be 23 new jobs as a result of this building.
That's correct. We'll move to Part B. I want to preface this, just making a couple of statements. There was a unanimous vote by our school board of education to include an addendum to come to you tonight for our budget request. And that's to request the local supplement scale for all certified employees to be increased. Our school board and this superintendent and the leadership across our school district, we believe strongly that the success of Buncombe County schools rests on the quality of our employees. I believe that very strongly. And especially our classroom teachers, our principals, and our instructional support staff. And that success significantly depends upon our ability to recruit, to support, and retain the quality personnel. So with that, I'm going to just take 2 quick slides, very basic, so that you have a better feel for what our employees look like across Buncombe County. We employ 3,758 staff members. Of that, 1,680 are what we call classified, non-licensed staff, including, by the way, our instructional assistants, our cafeteria workers, our bus drivers. But we also employ 2,078 certified or licensed professionals. And so what we're coming to you is in regards to the certified licensed professionals. And we thought you might be interested also in just, again, getting a feel for what's happening. And I think this is fairly true statewide. I don't think Dr. Ball and I have talked about it with Asheville City, but my guess is it's pretty close. If you look down there in terms of the numbers, you'll see that this year, for example, we had 65 brand new teachers to the classroom. And that's the pattern we're seeing. Again, as retirees leave, we're seeing these very young professionals coming in. So it's important that we do everything we can to make sure they remain in the profession. If I broke it down, I think it's a little bit easier to see. And from experience-wise, 0 to 4 years, that is the highest number of our classroom teachers in Buncombe County. That's 404. Now compare that to those with 25 to 29 years experience or 30 plus, and you'll see a significant difference. So what it's showing is, again, this transition of the young professionals coming in to teaching and those at the other end of the scale leaving. Now, I'm not going to necessarily say that's a good thing, because I think we need both. And some of our top supportive teacher leaders are those with 30 plus years of experience. So we can't forget about them either. But again, this is the pattern that we're seeing in Buncombe County schools. Now, I also believe, being an old recruiter in women's college basketball, that you better look at your competition around you. That's the first thing you need to look at. So we're not trying to look at Wake County, Charlotte Neck, Fayetteville, Cumberland, Winston-Salem. We're looking around us. And so our personnel and finance directors did a little searching to pull numbers. And the thing that concerns us is that for both Asheville City, our wonderful sister partner, Henderson County and Transylvania County, that when those individuals, those professionals begin there, they have an 8.5% supplement to start out. Now, and I think this is extremely important to hear, that for a Buncombe County school teacher, you would have to commit 20 years in the classroom or in service as a certified employee before you saw that 8.5 on our current scale. 20 years. Now, again, that's local competition. But I think it's very important, especially as superintendent, for me to realize what that competition's like and what it means. Our next slide is the current scale, and you'll see that we begin at 6.3%. That's 0 to 4 years of experience. Now, I think there's a wonderful element to our current scale that I want to be very open and honest and feel good about. And that is that when you reach 30 plus years of service in Buncombe County, there's that incentive to remain in there that long. You've got 11.7%. That's the current scale. But the concern is, again, the pattern of more younger professionals coming in and what they begin in terms of that supplement scale. And by the way, this current scale, you may recall that back in 2008-9, this was presented from Buncombe County Schools and the commissioners, and you graciously committed. It was a 3-year phase-in. You were able to commit year 1, and let's face it, we all understand what happened in 2009. It was impossible to pursue that. So what we have presented to you is the final stage, and it really does model to a large degree what that year 3 that was brought to you back in 2008 and 9 looked like. And again, that breaks down in terms of years of experience. But the great thing is, for those that sign on with Buncombe County as young professionals, 8.5%. So we are very competitive from the start with our school systems around us. I want to close by just adding a final concern too, beyond the local competition, and that is what I think all of us are facing. And that is we are facing a shrinking pool of candidates. We're facing a shrinking pool of teacher candidates. Since 2010, the UNC system has reported a decline in teacher education majors by 30%. I think, again, this is true for all of us, math, science, special education. What a challenge. The recent Mountain Teachers Job Fair, and that serves all 18 school systems in Western North Carolina, Region 8. The most recent one, and I think, Ms. Lopez, that was about a month ago, we had a total of 185 attendees. Now, compared to years in the past, that job fair has had to cap off at 500, the number of applicants that can come through that fair. So again, it's just the indication of two real concerns for us: local competition, and then overall for all of us, that shrinking pool of candidates. So how do we recruit them and retain them? And again, we appreciate your consideration of this supplement rate proposal. I can tell you that anybody in this room, I promise you, I know what it's like to deal with the challenging budget. It's tough. But our success truly does depend upon the ability for our school system to attract, to support, and to retain those quality educators. I believe in that very strongly. So with that, if you have any questions before I move into capital issue.
Yeah, I've got a question. On those that retire 30 years, 20 years, whatever, does some of them go back to being teacher assistants? Aren't there some in Buncombe County that have went back maybe later to be teacher assistants?
Well, they do, but they also come back to assist in interims for a classroom teacher. Again, very good question. And I don't want to get it because it can get somewhat complex, and I'll bring Ms. Lopez up, but that may take another hour to talk about this. But in essence, there's a 6-month break, Mr. Belcher, that those veterans, once they retire, would have to have, break completely from the system. And then there's options for them to come back. But it also is connected strongly in with their retirement so that it doesn't put them, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think the county government has something similar to that. But they are very valuable, especially administrators. Incredibly valuable to come back and serve on an interim basis for us.
Well, I just have, one comment, and I might mention it, I can mention it now or later, but I just want to make sure as the county manager, as we look at all this, that I have a concern about, that I've always had a concern about teacher assistants, K through 3, I'm a big advocate for them, and I just want to make sure that those non-certified positions, that we're not overlooking them, as we look at the teacher pay, which I think is something very valuable that we should be doing, and I certainly, for one, don't have a problem, looking at that and considering it, and if everything aligns, I'm probably a supporter, but I just want to challenge us to look at the non-certified, the teacher assistants, and make sure that they're very important to keeping the teachers, that these younger teachers that come and work, and we all know what happens in K through 3 when the teacher's trying to work with those kids and how important that assistant is. But I just want to make sure that we're also looking at our non-certified as we go forward.
I appreciate that, and again, I would strongly advocate the same. I understand from my board that we'll have a motion in our June meeting for us to put together a team to look at our classified pay. In fact, you might be interested to know, all classified staff, there was a study that was done back in 0405. And that was a study that looked across the entire western North Carolina to see for our classified staff how they compared. And so that's, the decision was made to put that one supplement in, not change the base pay. We think that's become over the years problematic. So I think it makes a lot of sense for us to reopen that, again, do the same type of due diligence to look at it, and then probably in the very near future come back to this Board of Commissioners for some assistance there.
To echo what Commissioner Belcher was saying, so recently I got an email from a teacher's assistant of 12 years, and she said her salary was $11.77 an hour. So I was concerned that, what do they start at? And it concerned me that someone with 12 years of experience doesn't make a living wage.
That's, again, going back to the base salary. This study never addressed the base, and that's part of what we're seeing not only with teacher assistants, but across the board. So, Ms. Lopez, can you help me with this?
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Cynthia Lopez. I'm the Personnel Director for Buncombe County Schools. But Commissioner Frost, you're correct. Teacher assistants, the pay is about $11.60 an hour for a beginning teacher assistant, and it stays that way for about the first 14 years. So they have to reach year 15 before their pay goes up. And the reason is because our pay has been frozen for non-certified positions. And so we have not had money to put back into those pay scales. Now, in addition to that hourly rate, our teacher assistants do receive a local supplement of 10.77%, but it is still low. And you're right, it takes several years before they actually get a bump. Now, in some of those years, the state has given us, this past year, for example, all employees got a $750 bonus, but it did not go into their base. And that's what's been happening with our non-certified pay.
So how many teacher's assistants are there?
Oh, man, we probably have about 600, I'm going to say. I'm looking at Deborah Frisbee, our finance officer.
So, and then a broader question. So how many people do you think in Buncombe County schools don't earn a living wage?
I can't answer that question right now. I think we can get back to you, and with that figure, looking at what the living wage figures are. But
so living wage in Buncombe County is $11.85 an hour with insurance. So I'd be curious to know that, and I don't know that anybody needs a study, but to figure out that something has to be done sooner rather than later. I certainly identify with the plight of teachers. I think everyone should be treated with the same brush, and I think it's pretty shocking in Buncombe County that we have so many, not pointing fingers at anyone, because we know we don't have any control of some of these things, but I think that has to be addressed.
And I just appreciate that we're able to talk about their salary.
Right.
Because how many years have I been up here talking about the state's decision to eliminate them? So again, I think you need to take pride in that you came to the table, and because they are, and Mr. Belcher said, they are absolutely critical in that K-3, especially those K-3 classrooms. So,
Dr. Baldwin, could I ask, is my understanding that the state has taken away the Teaching Fellows Program, has taken away additional pay for teachers that get additional degrees and go on to further their education? Is that your understanding?
that is correct. There has been some discussion about bringing back the master's level pay, but that recognition was taken away.
Okay, my question would be, short of the state doing something which we have no control over, has there been any local efforts to fund those programs or do anything to reward? I think it's just really important to reward folks who go back to school and get degrees when they are having to work. And I respect that, and I've always thought that was one of the worst. That and the teaching fellows kind of got me, but certainly on the higher experience end, that happens. Have we been able to do anything to pick that back up?
We have not as a school system. And I think there's been some efforts through RESA to try to address it for all 18 systems, but it's just very, because again, it's a budgetary concern. But I think, I agree with you symbolically. I think that's a terrible message, and it goes back to our dwindling pool of applicants. You don't recognize the value of education. What are you saying to someone coming into the profession?
And then the other comment concerns there was a meeting of the minds. I was on the board at the time, before we had the recession, that we would try and step up each year, and we were not able to do that because of the downturn. And we just hadn't gotten back to that habit. We haven't really had the discussion. We've had so much else go on, but you have been patient since 2008 and have not pushed us publicly about it, but it is something that my understanding was we kind of, you can't, no board can commit another board past this year. But I think there were discussions that I clearly remember that we would try our best with the board that we had to work with in the future to add those increases that you're asking for now. And that's, basically, you're just skipping, you're asking for what we talked about 8 years ago, basically. Is that
We just gave you the entire final model, and again, I think any gesture toward this effort is, speaking for a lot of employees, I think would be greatly appreciated.
Tony?
Yes.
One question on this. I understand the 1177 and the way you explained it, I like that. But and they got insurance. Do they have retirement?
Yes, they do.
So that's, there's more benefits tied in, and on looking at the city schools, Asheville City compared to around it, I see 8.5 to 10% for all employees. Buncombe County gets county taxes, they get state, they get federal. City gets county, state, federal, and city. So they have more to pull from than we do. So that's, that one there, that gives them some leverage, so. You know, we have to watch that one. You know, they're coming for money too from us, but they have another way to recoup money. It's just like Dr. King or Dennis was basically saying, we're only going up 300,000 at AD Tech, you know, 6.3 million, and from 6 million to 6.3. We're looking at that in this one agenda here, so. I hope Ms. Green can find it, but if she can't, I just do know we have a fund balance that the school has that may have to help us make it get through a certain area. And that's I want to do, you know, as long as it don't cost the property tax people or the people of Buncombe County any extra money, I'm in there because I'm for all the kids and for all the teachers, and they have to be taught. But the fact is if it's going to cost the property, the people is in the paper. And I don't go back on my statement. I want everybody to make a good living. When you got retirement tied to something, that's an incentive that goes along with insurance. That's basically a little better than living wage, because living wage, $15 an hour, and you walk out and you got Social Security and you're done, that's a different story than what we're talking. And but the city is a little different, and if Ms. Green says we can make this budget work with that in it, I'm for it. If she can't, then I may ask you to go to your fund balance.
I have one other question before we move on to capital. What is the expected, it's probably not possible to know for certain, but what is the current outlook on the timing for the state budget resolution, so we might get a little bit more clarity on where it's going to land? To the extent that that's, I'm sure you're following it, but what's the current outlook?
We heard, and I think it was a fairly reliable source, that the Senate would publish their budget today. And since we left the office, I don't think any of us have actually seen that Senate budget. But the good thing is, once it's published, and I would assume it would be this week, So what's helpful for us is now we've got the Senate, the House, and the governors, and we can make much more valid decisions, but it is so difficult to do that with where we are right now.
That prompts one more, I'm sorry, but this is a good discussion that we really need to have. Thank you for engaging us. What is the, we have the per pupil expenditure. Some of the charts I've seen on the teacher pay compared to the rest of the country puts us down in the low 40s. There was one study I saw that said we were actually 51st if you include DC, so dead last. We used to be ahead of our neighbors in South Carolina and Mississippi and Alabama. How are we doing on that? Are we still kind of near the bottom, or have we moved up any?
I think we may have bumped up a couple points on the most recent for teachers. Now, the 51st, that study was for our principals across the state. And I'm a strong advocate for the success of that school. You need that successful leadership. But I think there's been just a bump, would be the way I would describe it. At least that's the most recent study that I've seen on that journey.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to move on to a capital request that will be coming your way. You've seen this in bits and pieces for a while now, and that is Community High School. This building actually turned 90 years old this year. It currently houses 148 students, and the campus also houses a child care facility for our teenage mothers. It also, I think there's 42 children that are served, and so it also serves the community beyond those children from our students. There's also a modular cafeteria. There's also 2 modular classrooms that are housing our day treatment program. And the best way to describe the day treatment program is for those particular students, we give some additional mental health support using resources, professional resources. It's been very successful. In January, we completed a community high school feasibility study. And a new building for replacement, that's been something that you've seen actually over the past 4 years in our long-range facility needs report. While our State Department of Public Instruction, they came in and did an estimate on the cost of that building. It was over $13 million. In fact, I think that was also provided to you in that particular study. And we believe strongly that we have a total project design that can be built through a $12 million budget. I'm going to take you through this fairly quickly. Stop me if you have questions. What we propose is combining a portion of the existing building, and you can see if you look to the right, that primarily is brand new classrooms on 2 levels. To the left of that, you see a portion of the old building. We think that's important because the gymnasium is structurally very sound, and we also believe strongly this is a community school. In fact, I was at a presentation, actually a celebration over at Black Mountain Elementary School, and I actually met 3 older gentlemen that graduated from that high school, when it was a high school. And so we think it has, from a community standpoint, certainly some value. And with the 2 floors that connect with it as new classrooms, we think we meet the needs that are very justified for those students. We also have a schedule that would allow us to essentially take our child care and move it in new modulars, which would meet the standards for that particular child care facility. We could move the modulars that currently exist for day treatment to open up the area where we would be building. So essentially they would continue to have classes in the same structure while the new 2-level classrooms are being built. So essentially we don't displace anyone at any point in time. And we think that's very important. Again, the existing gymnasium is in good shape. If you've been out there, it's really a beautiful gym. If you love the wood floors and back in the 40s and 50s, it is gorgeous. It's a gorgeous gym. The next slide shows you, really emphasizes the 2 classroom levels. We actually went out and presented this to the community high staff, and they were so excited about this opportunity. Again, this is something that has been needed. It would be what I would consider our highest priority for capital facility in Buncombe County Schools right now, especially with the age of the building. Another view, again showing, emphasizing the classroom structure. And now I'm ready to move on to my favorite topic, swimming pools. But I'll stop, and if there's any questions about community high school.
I don't have a question, but just a comment. It's great to see the project moving ahead. It's a beautiful historical building, but it needs to happen, so it's great to see it moving ahead. I don't have any specific question about it.
Okay. All right. So I know everyone's excited to hear about our pool. And I do want to give, this is going to be a fairly brief update, and that's essentially what it is. It's an update. We still have a lot of questions out there. We're still going through quite a bit of the process. First, on behalf of our high school swim teams, because first and foremost, that's what I'm going to represent. I'm going to look out for currently our 5 high school swim teams. INCA does not have a team as of yet, but my guess is within the next couple of years, they will have a swim team as well. So I've got to look out for them, first priority. But all that said, our county manager handed the lead over to me in terms of replacing the Zordner pool. And I do want to stop there and say, I do want to recognize Dr. Green. She has been incredibly supportive through this transition. I mean, when we stepped in Zordner and realized that we ran out of Band-Aids, and they came to our aid, we did a lot regarding the operations and maintenance, and so it's a safe facility for at least 1 more year, but we are on borrowed time. And I think everybody has to understand that. The first thing I did when that responsibility was shared is I picked up a telephone and I called Paul Vest in the YMCA. And Paul's, I know he's had a long day, but he's kind enough to be here at the meeting tonight. And I did that for 2 reasons. Number one, we do not have the expertise, we do not have the budget, and in all honesty, I love athletics and I love the swim program, but we do not have a desire to operate and maintain swimming pools, especially one in one area of the county. The experts were clearly the YMCA. They have a national structure, they have expertise, they have people that not only maintain and operate pools, they do them currently here in Western North Carolina, but they also have the staff to come in and help guide us and design and put proposals in front of us. That is huge. And the second reason is because we've got a great partnership with the YMCA. Whether it's the graduation initiative, whether it's the after-school program, they have been top-notch, one of the highest quality partners that we have. So that's why I called upon him. Paul probably wishes he never got that phone call, but in all honesty, that's the first thing that I did. As we started looking at Zordner and the experts were brought in to help us to make sure we had a safe facility, we had all the inspection requirements, a discussion moved in the direction of something as a Buncombe County born native that I've heard for 20 plus years, and that is an aquatic center. 25 years ago, coach at Robertson High School, when I was an AP there, Neil Rowe, I think he actually came to commissioners and talked about an aquatic center. It's never happened. Now, again, the definition for an aquatic center, to me, has to do with multiple pool tanks, and that's important. So that's really important to understand. Now, the first thing that we did is we looked at the participants. Who would be using this facility? So at the very bottom of the triangle, it says swim lessons. Now, why is that important? Because currently we're looking at the Y a national model that's called Safety Around Water. And what we hope to do in the very near future is have every one of our fourth graders in Buncombe County schools go through this program, brought to a facility. Essentially, and I know, Paul, this is not the correct term, but to me, it's ground proofing. So that's the base of the triangle. Who else uses it? There's the high school. We currently have 5 teams. The next level is U.S. Swimming. Now, what's U.S. Swimming? For those of you, for the amateur athletics, this is that organization that is year-long, that we have our high school swimmers work through the wide, what's called the Piranha Swim program, and they year-long swim. This is their passion, and so that is a real key. About 170 students across Western North Carolina participate in this program. Move on up, college and university. Well, UNC Asheville came to the table with us, and Janet Cohn couldn't be here tonight, but in partnership with the U.S. Swimming in our high schools, all of a sudden the conversation went into, well, you know, if UNCA could use this facility and host meets, we've got an economic development project that might be tremendously valuable for the whole area and what it might attract. So now they are a partner with ourselves in the YMCA, and I've got the tip top as world class. And what you may hear, and I'm probably not going to do this justice, is there's always this controversy, short course, long course. A long course is represented by 50 meters. If you're in a world-class event, we're talking Olympics, you're going to see those 50-meter pools. Phelps won those gold medals in the 50-meter pool, long course. However, what we found is that for the high school, for the U.S. Swimming, and for the college and university, a 25-yard short course meets all their requirements. Because if you add extra space onto a pool, you've got more maintenance cost, more operational cost, and it costs more to construct it. So just keep that in mind. Again, we're in the still exploring stages. I will also tell you that the 3 of us have gone in and let me just run through 2 more quick slides here. First off, what are criteria that they look at, especially with competitive swimming versus therapy swimming, or somebody like Tony Baldwin jumping in? And some of that is the size. We talked about that, 50, 25 meter. Water temperature, for competitive swimmers, that's about 80 to 82 degrees. When you move into children in the pool, swim lessons, or therapy, you're talking about somewhere between 84 and 86 degrees. So there's a difference in temperature. Thus, the advantage of multiple pools to allow you multiple temperatures. And water depth. Not a big factor unless you have a diving well. And I don't think my insurance person would like me talking about diving. Although that's, I'm going to tell you the one thing I know, and I am so novice at this, but the one thing I'm going to tell you is regardless of what we do with that facility, it's not going to meet the needs of what is exploding around Western North Carolina with swimming. I mean, that's just a fact. But at least it's a step, I think, in the right direction. Here's Kingsport, Tennessee. This is a great model. Some of you may have been up there. It's the YMCA worked with Kingsport, with the city. And to the right, you see the competitive pool. Just to the left, you see the multiple pools that are used for warm-up and cool-down. This is an actual picture of Paul, I think I'm right, of Kingsport with the competitive pool. Very beautiful facility. And here we go. So the experts came in from the Y to help us look at the design. And so what we have at this point in time, and still looking at options, is a design that would take the current Reuters YMCA. It would put new locker space up at the top. It would have a new lap pool, 10 lanes. Now if you think about high school swimming, that actually gives them 12 lanes for practice. Larger than anything I think around here, 10 lanes. And then for the swimming pool that's currently there, and that's the advantage, there's already a pool there, We met with a room full of parents of swimmers. We met with our coaches, and based on that feedback, I think Paul we're now looking at trying to expand that current pool from 6 to 8 lanes, because what we found out for competitive swimmers, it's all about how many lanes do you have? Do you have enough lanes for us to be able to swim? So that's something that we're looking at. This is a project that we have also looked at in terms of the cost to do this at Reuters. The figure there is $7,911,000. You provided 6, roughly 6. We have applied through the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority for $2 additional million. That process runs all the way up to October until we'll know. But that fund, that total combination of funding, would allow this to take place. There's parking issues that we've also talked about. We think our Biltmore Farms, Biltmore Park will work with us on that because that can be a concern. The thing I want you to take a look at is that freestanding pool. In other words, if we went over to Zordner, the cost of constructing what we're talking about at Reuters would be $13,190,000. Now that's multiple pools. So again, just the cost. Now why is it more? Because you don't have an existing pool, you don't have the infrastructure, the site, basically the site prep's already done, the YMCA, plus your building shell is much, much larger at a freestanding site. So this is what we're looking at, we're excited about, but it's all in the money, and I'll just have to be quite honest, it goes back to what I said. My job is to look out for our high school swim teams. I think this is incredible opportunity. Now, it could be much better, and I'm sure you're going to hear how it could be so much better, but to have it much better, it's going to have to be a fairly sizable commitment of dollars, and maybe it's there, but we got 5 months. Because my feeling is, when we hear from the Tourism Development Board, that really is going to be a gauge. Or if we hear from some mysterious donor, maybe tonight, somebody will be flipping their TV set on and say, my gosh, give me my checkbook, here comes $2 million for this project. You never know. But it's the funding piece. So at that point, when we know what funds are available, I think for the sake of our kids, high school teams, I go back to what you committed to, which was replacement of the Zorka pool. So I take the funds and I do the very best job I can of that single pool and replacing that facility. I just think that's the reasonable, common sense thing to do. Because again, Zordner, we do believe, can give us one more year, but at this time next year, I have no clue whether or not, because it only takes one large break over there, because it's a very aged facility. Mr. Best, I know is Paul still here? If you have, is there anything that I forgot?
A couple of things. Can you go back to the slide of the diagram?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so I have been to Kingsport and seen their facility, the Y and the pools, and it really is amazing. And one of the things is that they have a pretty big list of contributors to that, and part of it, I would not leave out the health system in Buncombe County, to explore, partnerships depending on what the additional uses other than the high school team, would be. When it's not scheduled for high school, how do you see it being used? What's the discussion on that when it's not? Or is it going to be used all the time? I mean, just...
Well, we're taking a sort of a step in the zone we've never moved into before. I'm sure, again, with the skills that the Y have, because this isn't new. This is what they put in place all across the country. So that's a tremendous resource to have. Again, I love the concept of having a pool the size that we can bring our kids in and go through this water instruction. I mean, I think that's incredible if we can do
Tony, what will UNC Asheville's role be in this?
Well, what they have for a number of years looked at a new facility because of the ability then that they would have to host these meets. So they projected about, I think year one, 4 to 5 meets, and it's a sizable number. They run 3 days in their swim meets. Of course, it's very regional, South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, but they have what's in a women's swim program, but it's a co-ed program. So it meets NCAA requirements, and so Janet was excited about this opportunity.
So this facility you can work with colleges and
Yes.
some of the other colleges.
Yes, they have some very clear guidelines with the NCAA what that facility has to look like.
Okay, so we're at that level with this facility?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because I know when we've talked in the past, I bought a dive in and I get the liability and really the small number of kids doing that. The cost per kid is just astronomical above that. But I wanted to make sure we had something probably as big as we could do, but not overshoot it based on what we have to work with, because as you know, and Dr. Baldwin and Dr. King and Paul knows, once you build it, that's where you begin. Then you have the operational cost, and the last thing we want to do is to overshoot and have something where we can't pay for it. We're always wringing our necks, wondering why we built something that we can't keep going. I think we've got the opposite as far as demand to come here, the opposite thing. So now I think we're back on, well, what can we afford based on the money we have? And I appreciate you going to TDA. I think that's a real fruitful move, and I know that they want to work with Buncombe County more than they have, and I'm real optimistic. And I thought, Paul, I think I've been out and talked to you a couple times, and really appreciate the time and energy both of you gentlemen and Wanda have put in here, meeting with the school folks, because we heard from the swim community, and I think we had a lot of goggles out there one night, and it's very effective. And we want to help them. And this is the kind of thing that this makes us different than anywhere USA to have a facility. And we want to do the best we can, but it's got to be within our budget. And so thank you for your good work.
How many, so I think when David mentioned about cost per child, so how many high school kids are in a swimming program? I guess I'd like that number plus comparing it to other sports.
I can give you that number. I'm sorry, I don't have it tonight, but I can give you that exact number of those student athletes, because we do the eligibility forms on it. And it will vary based upon the particular high school. I think certainly our largest is probably at Robertson and Reynolds, and then probably next would be Owen, North Buncombe, Irwin, but I can get you those numbers.
I'd just be curious to know, how much it is to swim versus play football, the other sports, and what that breakdown is. I mean, are we talking about 500 high school students swimming?
I think the number's around 300 some, and I've got that, I just didn't bring it with me today.
Do we have a cost per child for swimming?
I don't think we've ever broken it down to cost per child. The thing that I've looked at does not have a dollar figure. It's the academic integrity of these swim programs. I mean, it is, in fact, one of our programs just won this huge national scholastic award.
Oh, no, I just think it's interesting for people, for taxpayers in particular, to know what they're investing in and the cost of someone in the band versus swimming or football or soccer or any of it. I think it'd be interesting to get those numbers.
I can try to pull those numbers for you.
The one thing that I liked about it is bringing UNCA into it. You got Warren Wilson, they've closed their pool, so there's another option to bring somebody else in. So this can help overcome some of the expense. Yes, it's going to be expense, but there is a help. So you as a superintendent and the people of Forest Buncombe County need to try to figure to make this what we have work, but not a lot of more cost to the county taxpayer as well. Okay? But you got this, you got Morris Hill College, you got, all these colleges, hopefully they'll tie in with you and give you some money.
Any other questions for Dr. Bond?
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank school board members from Buncombe County School Board being here tonight. And here from Dr. Pam Baldwin in the Asheville City School budget presentation. Dr. Baldwin, good to see you. Lovely girls doing well. Off to the summer at NC State.
In summer school.
In summer school. Yeah, I'm really proud of them. They're good girls.
Yeah.
Had a pleasure putting you on with us.
Yes, sir. I'd like to introduce our board chair, Peggy Dahlman. Thank you for being here, and our Chief Executive Director of Finance, Donna Watson. Thank you for being here, and I'm not sure I see any other members, so thank you for allowing us to take some time to present for you. So in creating this budget, we had to make a lot of assumptions, as Tony indicated earlier. A couple of those assumptions include that the General Assembly will continue the actual formula and the amounts that was approved in the 2015-2017 biennial budget. And so that assumption is one that we've made as we move forward. The second is also that there will be no legislative changes that change the impact on sales tax. And so therefore, hopefully, with that assumption, that will hold true. In addition, we've made another assumption in that the legislative changes, there will be no legislative changes for the impact of charter schools in their share. And so as we build this budget, we just want to make sure that we are clear that, as Dr. Baldwin has indicated, we are kind of working on a budget that we do not have a lot of clear information on just yet. So as I started last year, I will start this year as well with our growth in our district and our annual average daily membership. And as I indicated previously, we have been growing in our district since 2009 with the exception of 1 year. And over time, we continue to be projected as to grow in 2017. And so as you know, when you grow, you also have other concerns. So more children mean more classrooms. And so we are experiencing a lot of growth at our elementary level. In particular at our upper level elementary classes, and so we predict or we anticipate adding 6 classrooms to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. In addition to that, there's an allotment formula for 1st grade that we're watching closely that would require us to have another additional teacher and a half, and so we just want to be sure that we are able to fund those positions and we keep our class size at a reasonable size. So another opportunity that comes when you have growth is your support staff. And so we devised or created a advisory committee, budget advisory committee, to go through some of our needs through our strategic plan and also to talk a little bit about how our growth is impacting our students. Our advisory committee is comprised of school level, district level leaders, as well as community members and parents. And during that advisory meetings, we talked a lot about the needs. And one recommendation was an additional social worker to address our needs at the elementary level. As Dr. Baldwin indicated as well, mental health is something that we have been looking at closely, and we see that increasing need not only in our district, but in our state and our country. And so to add an additional social worker to support our teachers was something that we thought was really important to make sure that our students' needs were met. This next slide talks a little bit about the increase in the percentage for Asheville City Schools and the Buncombe County ADM. And I can't even see those numbers, are so far away, so I'm going to look down at my notes. And that growth is from 15.27 to 15.59%. And just to give you, that's the projection as it relates to our current growth in ADM. This projection equates to about $200,000. And we again, through our committee, looked at the needs and what those additional funds would be utilized for. Again, Dr. Baldwin mentioned our day treatment process and making sure that we have mental health support for our students. And through a lot of studying and actually looking at some of the great day treatment programs we have here in Buncombe County as well as across the state, decided through our committee to add a day treatment program to all 3 levels in our district, elementary, middle, and high school, to address some of our students who are not only struggling academically but also socially, emotionally. And we feel that that was a really great recommendation from our committee and one that we believe our data indicates we need. And then the second part of that $200,000 would be for an additional AIG teacher. Again, through our data and utilizing our funds appropriately for the needs,
we have a large population of identified AIG children, and we want to ensure that we serve them, especially at the elementary level appropriately when they are identified in 3rd grade. And so again, that's an area that we'd like to ensure that we meet that need and that we add that to our budget for support.
And what school would that AIG go to?
So it's not really a school necessarily. What we have currently are about 6 teachers, and we split them across by percentage as students are recognized or identified. And so that position would be split as well to meet the needs.
Just go wherever they're needed?
Yes, sir.
Each school, okay.
To include some of our K-2 nurturing processes to make sure we identify as early as possible. So we also made some assumptions about salary, and we are aligned with Buncombe County Schools. I love to be aligned with Tony Baldwin because he's pretty awesome. And one of those things is our 5% for our certified staff, our 3% for our classified staff, and then of course we removed the $750 one-time bonus from last year's budget in anticipation of what might happen in the Senate budget. We do have currently the House budget sitting on the table, and we've already found that assumption that we utilized is not accurate just yet. So as we move forward, we'll of course refine our numbers and work closer to make sure those are addressed. But that number is about $389,000, almost $390,000. That would be a change in the salary. In addition, as Buncombe County Schools also indicated, there's this shift in the benefits and the benefits increase. Around $35,000. That number, I believe, will be significantly higher once we actually receive a budget. And so, as indicated again by the shift that we just saw in the House budget, the number is a much greater percentage than we initially thought. So that's where we get our projections for our salary and benefits to include retirement and hospitalization. So based on what we currently know, which is not a lot really from the state, but some predictions that we do have and our needs, we are projecting the increases for the following request or current projected increases for these numbers. And so the 15.59% I indicated earlier, which is an increase, in addition to the supplemental tax at 15-cent rate, and then also the projected increase in sales tax collections. What will we do with those funds? I'm going to pull up my notes because I really can't see that. So, we already talked a little bit about the next salary increases of almost $390,000. In addition to that, the increase in benefit of $35,000. We also know that the 2 beautiful facilities that will open in August 2016 will need additional custodial help. We want to make sure that we maintain those beautiful facilities and that we do that appropriately. Because of the square footage, we know that we'll need additional help, and so 2 additional custodians will be needed to make sure and maintain that facility. We also, as Buncombe County Schools, will be paying for the Canvas platform, which is again the parent portal and our information system for our students. As you know, in our strategic plan, we have 3 very important focus areas, one of which is early childhood. Our expansion of our preschool is near and dear to my heart and many of our community members, and I don't think I've ever stood in front of any crowd and not talked about early learning, even though I was a high school teacher recovering. We believe in Asheville City Schools that preschools are where we should be headed, and we are asking for some help in providing that service to our community. In addition, one of the recommendations that actually came out in many different forms is staff development for our people. Our human resources, of course, is our most important resource, and we want to make sure they're trained and supported in a way. Not only is salary important, but we believe that support to retain those teachers, teacher assistants, and other support staff is just as important. And we want to make sure that we provide them with that training so they can be effective. We also want to, as we discussed through Buncombe County's presentation, address our classified salary schedule. So we've devised a plan to implement a process in which we can raise some of those rates for our teacher assistants and other classified staff in a way that they would be making a living wage, and that we could address the salary scale that hasn't been addressed in a number of years for a number of reasons. And then lastly, for this slide, is to maintain our nursing staff. Unfortunately, and fortunately, as your demographics change in a school system, and you have fewer students of poverty, you lose federal and state funding. One of the federal funding sources that will decrease for us and has in the last couple years is Title I funding, our federal funding, formula based on poverty. One of the variables based on poverty. The other is at-risk funding, what we call 069 money. That money is also state money, but is based on a formula with poverty as a variable. Unfortunately, and fortunately, Asheville City Schools is changing demographics, and therefore we're losing funding in those two sources. But we still need the nurses. And so we need the funding to just maintain the number of nurses we currently have. In addition to that, we want to also continue to support our special needs program. We continue to use local funding for that. As you know, the formula for exceptional children in North Carolina does not meet the need for the allocated number of teachers that you allocate to a school. It's far reaching to even make that work. And so we have been and will continue to and should support that program in a way that is appropriate for the needs of our students. We also know that as we hire our new staff, for example, the 2 custodians I spoke about earlier, the 6 teachers that we'll add to the elementary school, they deserve and should receive the local supplement. And so the next item on the slide is that $60,000 to make sure that we include their local supplement in their salary. As well as with any increase, we know we have a pass-through for charter schools. I'll pause before I talk about capital if you'd like to ask any questions about that mouthful I just shared with you. Okay, great. So, believe it or not, one of my favorite things is construction all of a sudden. I don't know why. Spent a lot of time there. And one of the great things about Asheville City Schools and Buncombe County Schools is that we have commissioners who care about our facilities. And one of the things that I've learned a lot about in my short 2 years here is that when you have beautiful, beautiful buildings that are really, really old, they take a lot to maintain. And so I've learned that not only through walking through with Don Sims and Greg Israel, a great partner, but I've also learned that through the needs and of watching a leaky roof while students are trying to take a test or trying to just listen to the teacher. It's unfortunate, but it's something that we should address. And so I just wanted to share with you a few capital projects and some next steps for Asheville City Schools as it relates to our capital funding. The projects you see on the slides currently are projects that are either in progress or done. We are very proud of the beautiful tennis courts that we were able to complete this year. In addition, you'll see some central office stairways that have a safety concern currently, and we're working to address those, as well as the HVAC system at Jones Elementary School. Again, another slide just indicating the increase in our percentage from Buncombe County ADM, which is moved from 15.03% to now 15.4%. Those capital outlay funded project revenues include $6.5 million for AMS. Much of that project is for the demolition of our current building and site work. As we move through, those 2 buildings will be done, and we'll be opening them in August 2016. But as you know, we built that middle school right behind the current building, and so we'll have to do a lot of site work and demo during the school year 16-17. In addition, our Article 4042 sales, projected supplemental tax, and our projected use of our fund balance. So, what do we expect to spend with those or use those funds for? I mentioned a little bit about the AMS project. Most of that is demo and site work. In addition, we have several roof projects, some extremely large. We also want to address some security issues at Jones Elementary School and enclose some of the hallways that are currently open to the public. In addition, there are several other capital projects that I'll talk about in just a minute. And then, of course, with new buildings and new structures and growth comes furniture and things like that, technology. And so we've included that in our request, as well as some vehicle replacement. So I never like to have that opportunity to talk about Buncombe County Commissioners and the wonderful schools that we're building and not have a chance to say thank you. And we are so appreciative of all that you do for us. And as Chairman Gant mentioned earlier, I have been in several of those other districts in this state in which the partnership And the relationship with our county system as well as our community college and universities is nothing like what we have here, and we should be very proud of that. And in saying that, I can't say enough about how happy we are that we're going to open 2 beautiful new schools in August of 2016, which you're all invited to the grand opening. And it's going to be a wonderful opportunity to see the hard work and dedication to our educational system. So I did want to share with you just a couple slides of this beautiful school that we will open this year, and tell you a little bit about the 3-story building that will have state-of-the-art CTE programming, as well as some state-of-the-art science labs. I am a science teacher, and I really appreciate the quality and care that's been taken in really taking care of our students. It's really important, and we appreciate it. And secondly, second to none, the Isaac Dixon Elementary School, complete with a dinosaur on the wall, that will be LEED certified, and just a beautiful building that the entire state will envy. And so we are just, again, thankful for you all taking the time to listen to the needs, but also to putting your money where your mouth is and taking care of the city schools. So we thank you very much for that. And on to our additional projects. Again, I mentioned with really old, beautiful buildings come some other things that we have to address, one of which, many of which is roof replacement. So we have several of those projects underway. We did a large analysis of our entire district, and specifically the high school and Montfort campus. For our district, we have about a 6-year plan to get through some of these very large projects that include HVAC, window replacements, and roof replacements, as well as some toilet and water line replacement. In addition, this campus that's envied by all, it is in need of repair. And in doing that, we want to make sure that we take care of what is a beautiful facility, but also make sure that it's safe and it does not leak, quite frankly. And so some of the projects that need to be taken care of in the main building include some roof repair, actually roof replacement of the entire main building. In addition to that, some window and lintels, as well as some other areas around the actual structure of the building that needs to be addressed. Also moving through with some structural and roofing issues. The buildings were built with gutters inside behind the mortar, which is really interesting, but not very feasible when it comes to repair. And so when you're leaking from the inside out, it's a little bit difficult to address that issue. And we're learning that the hard way, but we do want to preserve this great building. And so in doing so, we're going to make sure that we utilize some capital funds and ask for some help from our commissioners to take care of that process. And again, some HVAC and some great ideas that turned out to be not so energy efficient as we move through the process to address the needs of our high school campus that, again, as you know, houses 3 of our high school programs, our actual high school, our SILSA program, as well as our Turner School, all on the same campus, about 1,500 children. So when you think about the sheer magnitude of addressing all of our secondary kids on one campus, on a campus that really needs to be addressed, I think that's a huge conversation that we should have. I'm sure all of you heard a little bit about the conversation of our Montfort campus. We are really excited that as our Isaac Dixon students move into their brand new building, this building will become available. Our Board of Education has voted to allow it to be some type of secondary school. We have a planning team that will be building that programming. It's a really exciting time. We right now are using the term Fusion Academy until we figure out what we're going to call it. But it's going to be a great building and another option for our students at the secondary level. And so with that, it's a great building, but outside of whatever it becomes, there are some issues that we need to address, and those are listed for you above. Again, a roof, some toilet issues, science classrooms, as well as some HVAC issues. And so that's just something that we know is on our radar. Capital is always huge, but it's also necessary to address as we move forward for what's best for children. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm not sure what those students are doing, but it's a great picture, so.
Any questions for Dr. Paul?
I just got a comment, I'll say it while you've got a couple of your school board members in here. I remember when one of the first second meeting I came to, was presented with these two schools. The dollar amounts were like just amazing. And with a lot of discussion and a lot of hard work on a lot of people's part on this board. And Dr. Green, and we were in some meetings and were able to exceed the need at both of those schools for a lot less money.
Yes, sir.
And it was pretty impressive for what's being built. And I don't remember the dollars, but it was probably 10 million less than what, they originally started at. And they're going to be amazing buildings for the kids. So I'm very excited about it.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to the cutting the ribbon.
Yes, sir. And I'd like to just thank Dr. Green publicly. I'm not sure how often that happens, but but she's a wonderful partner and has been wonderful to work with. And she's loaned us out Greg Israel and John Creighton many times and to help with these projects and to make sure that we're on point. So we appreciate all the help and support.
I have, so the roof at Asheville High, is it leaking now?
Yes, ma'am.
And so students there are, okay.
So yes, ma'am, we have done, I think, as much as we can do as far as patchwork. At this point, we're at a point, and I rely on our experts, Don Sims, our maintenance director, and Greg Israel again, but I think we have done as much as we can do in the form of patchwork to address the issues. Because we have so much internal leaking at this point, it will be very difficult to stop any other leaking with patchwork.
So do we know how much that's going to be to fix it?
We do have some figures, yes, ma'am.
And how many students are at Asheville High?
On the total campus to include SELSA and alternative program, there are about 1,500 students.
All right, thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Thank you, school board members. All right, we have Dr. Wanda Green's going to give us our overall budget presentation. Everyone, yeah. Everyone's welcome to stay. We will not be taking, if anyone's waiting for a vote, I mentioned this in the recession, we're not voting on the budget tonight. This is a presentation program tonight. We will have a public hearing at our next meeting, and then we will have the third meeting, we'll have our vote. So everyone's welcome. And thank you for being here tonight to hear this important presentation. Dr. Green.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you. I really appreciate being able to stand here and bringing the 2017 fiscal year budget. I almost feel like I could say ditto on a lot of these things because we do battle some of the same issues in terms of how and where we lose funding, but we'll go through and talk about how we put our budget together. We have guiding principles that we use every time we put a budget together and every time we think about a decision. Basically, we focus on our core services and our priorities, which are education, public safety, and human services. Those are our key services. We always look at how we can realign existing resources to meet our priority needs, and we maintain our long-term comprehensive planning focus. Let's talk about what we do. Other times you've seen this slide to say what does the city, the county, and the state do. Well, I wanted to focus a little different way this year. If you look at the blue and you see all those services are listed, we provide those services countywide regardless of corporate limits. There's a little crossover where we all three have to do our building code enforcement alike, and the state participates with us on education and social services, and some of that's money that flows through the federal government. But basically, if you look in that blue section, we're providing that countywide. No municipality provides those services. So we are bringing you tonight a balanced budget that holds the tax rate at 60.4 cents, maintains our AAA bond rating, and with the factors that we have in this budget, should continue to maintain that. And we believe that it's really important that we keep in mind the people that we serve and that pay for our services as we look through the entire budget process. Our budget that we're bringing you tonight is a total of $407,169,686. That consists of both the general fund at $320.3 million and our non-general fund at $86.8. Now, non-general fund accounts are paid for with these and really specialized and specific revenues, restricted revenues really. And those include solid waste, our insurance fund, our air quality fund, our fire districts, our occupancy tax fund, which we manage, we collect for the TDA, and our 9/11 funds. We do focus though on the general fund because that's where most of our that's where our property tax is used. And we really want to acknowledge that all of our revenues come from our citizens. This is a decrease from our amended budget. Amended is a very important word here because we've had a lot of things happen in the course of 16 that I'm going to talk about. But bringing it in at a pretty, bringing it in at the existing rate was a lot of work this year for many people. So, where do we get our money? If you look at our major funding sources, which are property tax, intergovernmental revenue, and sales tax, that is 84.5% of our total revenues. Yet North Carolina counties have a very limited revenue stream. We're not a home rule state, so we can only use the revenue streams that we've been authorized through the general statutes to use. And some of those are fixed in nature. A sales tax, you can't levy a sales tax, and you can only use the sales tax the state specified. So there are some restrictions inside what we're actually authorized to do. But if you look, a significant portion of our revenue comes from those three streams. Of course, one that's really important to us is property tax. And our collection rate is really good, and it's critical that it be good. Our tax department, which is led by Gary Roberts, consistently has one of the best tax collection rates in the state. And last year we were at 99.7%. If Gary were in here, he'd say, now Wanda, that's 99.72%. But he is very consistently one of the highest in the state. If you look, we're a large county, and so the blue box are the county collection rates for the counties above, with population above 100,000, and then the red is the average for all counties in the state. One of the other funding sources that we do use in our to balance our budget is fund balance. This year in 16, the Medford wrongful incarceration case has really impacted our 16 results. I will tell you that late, well, not too late, in 15, we got into the spring and we knew that this case was coming. We knew that it was most likely going to be something we had to settle. So we just sent out a notice to everybody, said we've got to save some money. So for the first time in many years, not only were we able to save the fund balance we appropriated, we were able to save an additional $4.4 million, which has a significant impact on our overall fund balance. So while in 16 we're projecting losing $4.8 million, the 4.4 that we saved last year really gives us a good impact on the fund balance. We've been able to minimize it, but it took a lot of work over a 2-year period to do that. And so in the 17 budget, we have included a $5.6 million appropriation of fund balance. Let's talk about where this money goes now that we have it. In your package, you will have the spreadsheet that is included, I think, the third item on the agenda. And it clarifies the nature of our services and the types of services that are within that function. Now, within that function, there's nothing that says everything in public safety is managed by one person. There's 5 or 6 directors in each of these functions. We had that question raised, but I just wanted to clarify that where it sits in a function is just so the public understands the type of service that we provide. If you look at our services, our core services of human service, education, and public safety, that represents 88.29% of our expenditures, and these are for our very basic core services. About 8% of our budget isn't core, but it includes services like libraries, parks, and recreations that are really very heavily used by our citizens. So we have very little discretion in our budget. There is one thing I want to point out that doesn't show on the chart per se, but also in your list of attachments, you have 2 sheets on community funding request. This year we took a little different approach on those. we went through each of the funding, each of the requesters and decided, is this a service that really supports a county service? And if so, we have listed those as community development funds under contract that we would like to place inside departments for the departments to manage going forward and make sure we're getting the service that we need to buy from them. And the other list is community development grants, and these are monies that we have put into the community or requested by the community that don't necessarily complement our programming, but are enhancements to our community. We put in the budget, the $2.5 million, which is equal to the funding that we have in the 2016 budget. We did that as a placeholder because we will wait for further feedback and input from you. We want to see how you'd like to shift the funding amounts on both the contract and the grant list. So those are things we'll need to hear about in probably about 7 to 10 days. If you look at our type of expenditures, 91% of our expenditures fall into salary and benefits at 39%, operating at 16%, and program support at 36%. Program support are monies that basically flow through the county. We don't do the programming ourselves, we contract for it, or we're required to provide it. The biggest one of those is education, but we also have economic development, public assistance programs like Medicaid transportation, child care subsidy, foster care, and special assistance for adults. So those are just a sampling of what's in the program support. And if you look at this chart, it gives you dollars to go with that. Our salary and benefits in our $407 million budget are $125 million. Our operating is at $51.8 million, and our program support is $114.6 million. I will say we work really hard to find the best way to provide services. So we use smart partnerships whenever and wherever we can. And our employee count is today lower than it was 10 years ago, even though we get a lot of pressure from the federal and state government that we have to use merited government employees in some areas. We still have been able to hold our employment level down and accomplish a tremendous amount of services. Okay, so let's talk now you've heard from our 3 units of education, so let's talk a little bit about what we need to do going forward with those. At this point in the budget, what we have included is Article 40 and 42 sales tax. That's very restricted. You know, there are a lot of different types of sales tax. These are very restricted sales tax that are used by K-12 for certain types of equipment, and they have some guidelines on how they use them. They're restricted monies. They have to flow to them on an ADM basis, and those we've already included in the budget because of the requirements. ABTech, we have worked with Dr. King, and we're able to take the difference in what he requested last year and what he's requesting this year, because it is for building maintenance. We're able to take that out of the sales tax fund. We calculated in for new square footage, some maintenance costs, so we'll be able to adjust the budget to his request. We have gone through the details of that. Dr. Baldwin shared with you the capital needs that she has, and I will discuss those a little bit later, but would tell you that the repairs that we need at Asheville High with the roof problems and the other issues that they have to prevent further damage are going to be around $25 million. If you look at our total investment in education, before we actually start to budget any of the operating requests, we invest about $112 million between capital and operating cost. Dr. Tony Baldwin shared with us some information about several requests, and he and I have talked, and I'm going to make some recommendations and then want to take some additional steps. But before we start, I do want to tell you that as we've waited through the presentations a little after 5 o'clock today, we understand that we will see the Senate budget go online tonight. It'll go to the floor on Thursday, and we expect the third vote on Friday, which means we'll go to conference probably next week. But at least we'll have a really good idea of what the differences are between the House and the Senate budget. I think that we have to include the $1.55 million to open the Inca facility and do the additional programming at the Nesbitt Discovery Academy. So I will be including that going forward in the budget. We talked today, and we would like to wait till we see some final state numbers before we actually decide how much to put in for the teachers' increases, because we don't know what the state will really do, but it appears we will have plenty of notice on that if we're going to see the budget tonight and see an adoption this week. In my discussions with Dr. Baldwin, I wanted to meet with him to do 2 or 3 things. I need just to gain a better understanding of the impact that charter schools are having on our units of education. We've seen the shift to charter schools almost double in the last couple of years, and it's about $3.6 million in the county school budget and a proportionate share in the city school budget. I need to understand that a whole lot better so that not only can we look at the impact this year, but we can do some predicting for the future and can keep you very informed about what that's going to do as we see that shifting take place. And he and I agreed that we could sit down and bring me up to speed. And we would also like to work out a plan so that we can give you some options to phase in any increases in the supplements. Would be a very big hit in 1 year, but I think we can come up with some plans that give you some options for a phase in. That way we can do planning over the next 2 or 3 years. So that's where we stand on education, but we will have additional costs in our budget for education. That's why at this point in time we have a modest fund balance appropriation. Okay, so let's move on to human services, which includes social service, public health, mental health, and aging services, among many others. And this is the slide that I could tell you, I could almost mimic what you've heard. I'm not going to read you the slide, but want to point out that we are seeing more and more changes at the federal and state level. Individually, some of these may not seem like much, but collectively it can get to be a fairly large number. The federal and state changes not only are impacting our increased costs and reductions in revenues, but they are also raising some levels and some questions around performance requirements. The General Assembly is very focused on paying for performance and penalizing for failure to perform. We do, thanks to Ms. Stone and her staff, we did very well with performance. In fact, the state auditor visited a couple of weeks ago to see how we do it. I mean, how is it that we're able to stay consistently that high? So my hat's off to our social service staff. That they do a really good job. But one of the things that we do that a lot of other counties don't do, and they are trying to figure out how we do this, is we measure any minute of the day. We can tell you exactly what's in everybody's queue, how they're doing for the day, what the performance, what the measures are for that moment at that time. And we watch that every day, all day long, and we make sure that we know where we stand. And last week we were at 100% of compliance. So that's not an accident. We work very diligently at that. Just so you can see where our services are used, this is very hard to read, but you can see it in your package. This is a slide that just shares with you where our services are most heavily used. And I wanted to bring just a couple of slides. What we are seeing is a further and further erosion of federal and state participation in some of our programs. So the bigger that blue box gets going to the right, the more they are pushing to us to fund. So if you look at public health, in 2012, our cost was 55.7% of the operation, and today they're 68%. So that doesn't seem like a lot to all of us when you see it in a graph. Another one we want to take a look at is child welfare funding trends. It's gone from our cost being 52 to our cost being 72%. Let's talk about public safety for a minute. This is everything from our patrol and investigation, our detention center, our emergency services, permits and inspections, and our general services, and some funding we have for the district attorney. We do have a few new costs in this. Some vehicle replacement of $100,000 in this budget. We have a detention kitchen remodel. It's hard to believe, but that first tower of the jail is 21 years old. It's been in operation that long. It is the only kitchen, and it serves both towers. So at 21 years, when you're running as many people as we do through the detention center, and our averaging population somewhere 400 and 500, depending on the years that have gone by, the kitchen really needs a serious amount of work. We also are changing how we're handling some of our animal services, going to resource officers. Whoops, should not have done Okay, now, okay. Which this 150,000 includes some equipment and some contracted services, Asheville Humane Society. The firing range will be open this year, and the cost of operating and the personnel for the firing range is $436,000. So these are new items in the 17 budget. In culture and recreation, this is our really kind of our optional services. They're not required, they're not core services, but it's heavily used, whether it's our libraries or our parks. Culture and recreation does include a $55,000 increase that will be recurring to keep our pools resurfaced. We have a lot of pools, and given their age, we're almost to the point of having to resurface one every year. We also submitted, as Dr. Baldwin was saying, we submitted 6 applications to TDA for funding. They include a partnership with Weaverville, one with Black Mountain, 2 that support Buncombe Connect request, and 2 that support Inca Connect request, and 1 for Lake Julian. So we do have in some applications that, in fact, we just signed the papers on those a few moments ago. Economic development is next. There's not a lot of change inside the services that are provided under this area, but there is one big change that took place in December of last year. Session Law 2015-277 now requires that we have public hearings on all our appropriations for economic development. We've always done that when we were going to do incentives. We'll come in and do a public hearing and ask you for the incentive. But now, regardless of what you're spending the money on, we have to have a public hearing on that, and that includes what we pay to contract with the chamber. We're going through the community development list to see if any of those qualify, and we will hold that public hearing on June 21st before you adopt the budget. The other function is general government, which includes our register of deeds, our tax department, and our board of elections. You'll see register of deeds, anytime the economy turns and houses stop turning, you see a lot of revenue increase in the register of deeds, so we've seen some revenue increases there. The other 2 things that are increases in this budget is $158,000 for the tax revaluation. Expect that will be a one-time cost, not a recurring one. The other is $424,000 for elections. This is a general election, so we don't have a revenue source to offset the cost. In the municipal years, we do. So this cost is for staffing, equipment, printing, and basic supplies. We do have a new requirement that at every precinct on election day, we have 6 employees. Whether we needed them or not, it's a new Board of Election requirement that we have 6 employees at the precinct. You've heard a lot about the buildings that we finished in the course of the year, and I'll just revisit some of those pretty quickly. Dr. King was telling you about the Allied Health building. It's a 135,000 square foot building. It opened just a few months ago and really changes the face as you enter AB Tech. The new Mission AB Tech Conference Center that he mentioned is a 28,000 square foot multi-purpose building, and it opened right at the same time as Allied Health. It'll seat about 800 people, and they did get a $1 million naming bonus from the Mission Health System that they'll pay over 5 years. And then the thing that got the increase in the ratings is the 650 space parking deck at AB Tech. It has absolutely been one of the most popular buildings over there. We also have a 30,000 square foot classroom facility that's located at the public safety training facility. All of the public safety training for AB Tech is now located at this complex. Public safety training facility is really very heavily used. In calendar year 15, we had 10,644 students use the facility. We provided 4,486 classroom hours at that facility, and over 71,000 hours of training was provided at the facility. That's a complex that's heavily used in a year's time. And going back to Dr. Pam Baldwin, we have Isaac Dixon opening this fall. It's a 75,000 square foot facility that's replacing a 1950s building. And the Asheville Middle School is a 177,000 square foot facility that will open in the fall. And Dr. Baldwin talked about the demolition, and that they really do want to work hard to try to get that started this summer, and my discussions with Mr. Israel, so that we don't have constant demolition during the course of the students coming back to school. Inca Intermediate will open this fall. It's a 113,000 square foot facility, basically right at Sand Hill and Sardis Roads at Inca. And Dr. Baldwin did a great job of describing that. Projects that are in progress include the Human Service Complex down on Cox Avenue. It's starting with a 654 space parking deck that's now under construction. Last Thursday, they started pouring on the 3rd floor of the 7-story building. We expect that we will be able to park in the fall in this building. We had to build a deck first, simply because of the lay of the land. It's very landlocked. And once the deck is done, we will move on with a 70,000 square foot office facility to go with the building. The other thing that's under construction is a firing range that's being added to the public safety training facility. It's 12 lanes, 50 meter, and it will open this fall. So if you look at the capital assets that we have that we need to, that we deal with, and these are the ones that actually had to be titled to us over time. We have been pretty aggressive about replacing and renovating older buildings. Still a few out there that we need to work on, and you've heard about a couple of those. But our capital investment at this point is $1.15 billion. So if you look at what drives our debt by function is 54% education, 21% public safety, 13% human service, and economic development is the other big block in the yellow. But basically, our core services, represent 88% of our debt.
Sorry. Does this include what's coming online in, does this debt include what's coming online in the schools? Is that in here?
Yes, sir.
What about the HHS bill?
It does.
Okay, thanks.
We're pretty aggressive about our repayment plans. And we like, the bond rating agency particularly likes us to pay these off pretty quick. So in the next 10 years, we'll pay down 64% of that debt. And you can see this is the line we like to see when we're paying off the debt, and that's where you get capacity if you have other things you have to do or find yourself in a real bind. Our debt is not like a home mortgage when it comes to actual structure of the debt. Most of the time, they like for us to pay even principal payments. If you look at your home mortgage amortization schedule, your payment is flat for the period. But at first, you're paying a lot more interest and a lot less principal, and you get to the end and you're paying more principal and less interest. We have to pay an even amount of principal. So our payments are higher in the beginning because we're paying down principal at a really regular level. And so that's one way we're able to pay this off a lot more quickly. Every year, the debt on each issue, the payment, for the most part, starts to go down. There's a few of them that we have a fixed payment level. So if we take a look at our debt, 89.1% of our debt is under 4% fixed. The remaining almost 11% is basically taxable bonds that we have issued for a variety of reasons, and most of those come with revenue streams. If you look at our debt to asset ratio, it is very strong, and this is a key measure that the rating agencies use, and here's Commissioner or Chairman Gant's favorite slide. We've paid off a lot of our mortgage in the last year. It's like having a $63,000 mortgage on a $200,000 house is where we stand today. Anything you'd like to ask on the budget before I go on to the things we need to worry about? Okay. There are a couple of Senate bills that are moving that we need to talk about because they affect us in different ways. Some are a challenge and some are an opportunity. The first is Senate Bill 846. That's a busy slide, and I'm sorry for that, but it readdresses sales tax redistribution. And it ties it to some unusual things. There used to be 5 tiers from an economic development standpoint based on the considered wealth of your county. We were a 5th tier county. They've leveled that to 3 tiers. We're now a 3-tier county. That tier is important because as they change sales tax redistribution, what they are saying is the factor that they used to allocate Article 40 sales tax for us used to be 1.06. So when they calculated what per capita was, they'd apply this factor to it and we'd get that much, we'd get that amount of money. Our factor, if this passes, will drop to 0.9. And that would mean a $1.4 million loss in sales tax revenue to Buncombe County. If it passes, that's effective in the 18 budget, not the 17 budget. But it is one we're watching very closely. The second part of 846 goes back to the expansion of the sales tax base last year. The General Assembly expanded it to sales tax to be charged on, a number of new services. And their intention was to raise $84.8 million that would go to 79 smaller, less wealthy counties. But to get to that, the expansion only generated $67.2 million, and the state kicked in 17.6. What we are seeing is the state is not repeating that appropriation. So if they cut their $17.6 million appropriation, we will feel the immediate effect of $600,000. We will lose that in the 17 budget. We're watching these. We just don't know. It's very hard to tell, but we don't think they'll let the smaller counties lose any money. Any questions about those? They're complicated bills, but this is not a great bill for us.
Yeah, I have one, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But, so I'm trying to wrap my head around what's going on in the county, which is very, very positive as far as the sales tax that we're collecting.
Mm-hmm.
Could you speak to that a little bit? If we're impacted by sales tax of $1.3 million or $4 million, what you just said, but can you just speak to the fact that there's an increase in sales tax in the county, and for a lot of reasons, but.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We do have an increase in our sales tax this year. Find it on the sheet. I'm sorry. I forgot. Our sales tax increase for this year is about $1.5 million, and we do have good growth, good robust economy at the moment, and people are shopping. If 846 passes, given the economy, we probably just won't have growth next year. Probably it'll be 2 years of kind of just status quo, just based on the projections that we're doing right now, if the growth continues the way it's going. The 600,000 is an immediate hit, and that is real cost. No, that would be something we have to really reduce it.
So that would,
The 600,000 hits, yes, the 17 budget that we're asking you to adopt later this month. There's another Senate bill that I want to talk to you about, and that's Senate 888. But I want to start by talking about what that bill is attempting to change. In 1983, Article 39 sales tax was passed by the state of North Carolina. It's a 1% sales tax, and it was available to every county. But in Buncombe County, half of that, 0.5%, was restricted to school capital for K-12. At that point in time, we were one of the dirty dozen in the nation in terms of the status of our school system. So we've accomplished a lot of really good things with this fund. And I know to every one of us, to you as commissioners, to us as staff, to both school board systems, every child is equal and needs to have good facilities. And I think that some of this bill attempts to do that. Here's some of the things that we've accomplished with this. A couple of new high schools, Owen and Inga, 3 new middle schools, Valley, Cane Creek, and Irwin, 4 new intermediate schools, North Windy Ridge, Coons, Evelyn, and Inga, 3 new elementary schools, Sand Hill, Agnes Creek, and Hominy. And then we've had some administrative offices. We've done a lot with our football fields, and we've done a tremendous amount of major maintenance that was just too long to list. But significant improvements in our school system. In the city schools, we've done something with the administrative office. It was an old school building that we repurposed. We've done a lot of, we renovated Claxton a number of years ago. And there have been some renovations done at Asheville High and also a football field. We'll tell you, Isaac Dixon and Asheville Middle, of course, are improvements, but those are improvements that are being paid currently out of our general fund. It's $5 million a year. So if you look at the combination, just the busyness of the screen tells you we've done a lot with Article 39. But the fact that we do have to deal with is that the ADM requirement does not provide enough funding to make some of the improvements we need to make in the Asheville City School System. So we've had to pay out of our general fund to replace the middle school and Isaac Dixon. And we do pay currently $5 million out of the general fund for that debt service. What the Senate Bill 888 proposes to do is make 3 basic changes. And I want to emphasize this because this is very important to both of our Dr. Baldwins. This only impacts Article 39 sales tax. It does not impact 40, 42, lottery proceeds. It doesn't impact anything else that's driven by ADM, just Article 39. It's very important that we remember that. It's very important that we make sure that that's the way the bill stays. And I think they will be receptive to us if we talk to the local delegation. The changes include that the School Capital Fund Commission, which is an advisory commission that would vet the projects and prioritize them for you, would now be appointed by, one would be appointed by Buncombe County Schools, one would be appointed by Asheville City Schools, 2 would be appointed by Buncombe County, and those 4 would then appoint the 5th. It is an advisory board to this commission, to this board of commissioners, and the current board, which has not been operational for years but will have to be reinstated regardless now, is not appointed exactly the same way. The second change in this legislation would be that capital projects are defined as those expenses over $100,000 versus those over $50,000. $50,000 was a lot more money in 1983 than it is today. And the ADM split is eliminated. But I want to show you, we worked with both school systems to find out what are their next needs over the next 9 or 10 years. And I'm with Dr. Baldwin, I can't see this either. Hold this a little closer. If you look, based on the requests that have been made, which total $125 million over the next 10 years, and you combine the 2 school systems' needs, you can see that we issue the debt 1 year and start paying debt the 2nd year. So when you total those up, you can tell what the needs are at $125 million, and you can see the breakdown on this particular chart. We usually plan 1 year and adopt a reimbursement resolution. Then we borrow the next year, and the debt starts paying in the 3rd year. But here's the revenue stream, and I'm sorry that these are so small. I could not find a way to make them larger. But if you look at starting in the current year, the revenue coming into the fund is in that first column. The debt payment that now includes the $125 million they submitted to us for projects that are still in the pipeline. They have not started yet. It would include like the community school. Excuse me. They would include the changes to Asheville High, and they would include shifting middle school and Isaac Dixon into this fund. So as you can see, the projects that they've submitted are all very, I'm so sorry, are all very manageable under this new legislation. And at the 9th and 10th year, we have the capacity to issue another $100 million worth of debt if we needed to. So if there's an emergency comes up, there is tremendous capacity in this fund as redefined in this bill. So, and we wanted to make sure that we heard from both schools to say, give us your list, everything you think you can need, or give us the dollar. And county schools gave us the dollar amounts for a number of years out. And their board will be approving these projects in the very near future. But as you can see, we can do that $125 million of work. We can move the 2 schools and meet the needs and still have great capacity in this fund under Senate 888. I do have to tell you, as a person who has to bring all these things together in your county manager, this is a bill that works, I think, for both school systems and for Buncombe County. It gives us capacity tremendous capacity. I can sit here and say that by the end of the period you're looking here, we can have issued $225 million worth of debt and still have an ability to manage an emergency. Thank you. I've talked way too much the last 2 or 3 days. And it also then gives you capacity in the general fund to make some changes or to do some other things that you might like to do in response to other requests for other issues. Happy to answer any questions you have about that. This is not one we get to decide locally, but I also think it's one that you get to influence from here with your conversations with the local delegation. It's a local bill. It's not it doesn't impact any county but Buncombe. And when you look at serving all the kids and trying to serve them equally, give them all nice facilities without hurting anybody, I think this does that. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have about it.
When do you think we'll know on the bills next week?
I think to move this one, I think there's going to need to be some phone calls made. And I think when you make those phone calls, it'll probably start moving relatively quick.
So, can you go over, like, the turbo of the 125 million?
Mm-hmm. If you look in the first set of columns on the left-hand side of the sheet, we have included in the first column there the debt issue, and those are based strictly on what's been submitted to us by city and county schools and projects and money that they see themselves needing in each of those years. The second column is there just simply to let you know how the planning process works. Tell us about it, we borrow, then we pay. So the expenditures are always a year later. So that includes $125 million worth of projects that have been requested by city and county schools over the coming 9 to 10 years.
9 to 10 years.
And as you can see, we still are positive cash flow position inside that fund. And by the time you get to that 9th or 10th year, when you look at the capacity, we did not run it on down because you start issuing debt 10 years out, the spreadsheet is longer. But you do have the capacity at that point in time. We were particularly looking at 26. You start having the capacity to issue a significant amount of additional debt if you come up with another $100 million worth of need.
And so, did I hear right, so the Asheville Middle and Isaac Dixon is $5 million a year now in debt service?
You did hear right, yes ma'am.
And so, could that be transferred over to this?
We've already reflected that.
Okay.
I think what I understand on Isaac Dixon now, wasn't that, that's out of our funds, and that's the way we're paying it back instead of utilizing this other money.
And under the current legislation, we don't have access to this fund for those schools. Under the new legislation, we would.
And the new legislation and the structure for administration of it would create additional flexibility in terms of meeting some of the other priorities we have in terms of, it could be a lot of different things, but obviously one of the ones that was talked about tonight was increasing compensation, local compensation for public school teachers, which is we're looking at it for this year and the next couple of years, but also just as a long-term basis. We've got important decisions to make this year, next year, but it's not an issue that's going to go away. It's going to be an issue that's going to be an important priority for us, for years to come, and this would enable us to potentially have more resources to invest towards that goal, short-term and long-term.
Short-term and we have plenty of money for capital. The $5 million becomes capacity for other things that you might need for programming or something in the general fund. And you do have a number of requests in front of you.
One more question on that. Some of this money, could we actually turn around and take, say, 1%, which is like 2.8 million of it, and reduce basically the property tax for the people?
I think because you would have capacity for $5 million, I think it's up to the 7 of you how you decide to use those. It can be both in reduced cost and increased or other demands to meet other demands. So that's really up to this what will be the 7 of you.
Well, it's, we have demands, but then we have demands too for the people.
way I understand
So I don't have any other questions about it right now, but just, I mean, just an observation. I mean, I really appreciate the analysis on this. I know that this has just happened pretty quickly. So for the county and the school board, I mean, everyone's gonna be getting eyes on this pretty quickly to sort of understand what it would mean. And so I appreciate the initial analysis of it, and I just hope that over the coming days, we can all kind of continue the conversation around what it would mean for each of the different school units, the county as a funder of both. And there's always trade-offs on any kind of legislation like this, so understanding those trade-offs and hopefully, to the extent possible, figuring out ways that we can come together to meet, you know, the multiple priorities that we've been talking about tonight in terms of taking care of the facilities, looking at keeping and retaining our best teachers years to come, and you know, to what extent this would be helpful, or if there's any downsides to it, understanding that too. So just thanks for the initial analysis, because I know it's all come out pretty quickly, and the window for us to potentially weigh in on it is not a big window, so it's an important time to really focus on it.
That would be a very narrow window.
It is a narrow window.
Not big, but narrow.
Narrow and small.
I do want to say, we keep this, we have for years, Diane Price has kept what we call the school capital model, so that we know exactly what flows through the money. And this is conservative. We think that the results are actually better, but we prefer to be conservative going in. So I think that this is consistent with the model that both school systems have used for a long time.
Have you, and this is probably precipitous because we don't know too much, have you given any thought or figured what it would be if not only were the teachers pay increased, but made that the same amount for all Buncombe County employees?
We have thought some about that on staff, but we will put some numbers together, and as Dr. Baldwin and I meet and talk about that, and a phase-in plan, look at a similar one for county. So, and I think there's a lot of options that, other than maybe just the straightforward ones that have been used in the past. I think there's several options that really kind of came up as I listened to people talk. So I think we would more than be able to bring you back a plan before adoption on the 21st.
I think the thing that I have the hardest time wrestling with is so many teachers' assistants and non-certified not making a living wage in our county.
I did hear that pretty loud and clear as I listened to the discussion. So thank you for the guidance.
And Dr. Green, I would ask that I know you've had conversations. Please continue. I think it's real important that we have a lot of school board members, a lot of superintendents, a lot of folks that are very anxious about 888, and we want to make sure that we share everything. And I know you do this. I'm not telling you. I'm preaching to the choir. I know that, but I do think it's important because this is a change, and everybody needs to understand what it might mean based on this very figure that you're doing here. And I think that's real important for everybody to see that and understand what that says.
I will be happy to continue those conversations and will reemphasize one more time, this is Article 39. Because 40 and 42 are very critical to them for other reasons. It does not touch those.
Any other questions or comments about any of the topics that Dr. Green has touched on?
I want to take just a moment to say we've got the public hearing set for this budget at 4:30 on June the 7th. I do want to recognize Diane Price had to leave because of a family emergency, but Autumn Loggers and Nat Evans. We want to stand and they do a lot of work for us. And if we've got directors and staff, I see several of them in the room. Jim, Sherry, and up here. A lot of people make this budget possible. I get to stand here and say the things about it and try to bring it together, but there's a lot of fundamental work starts earlier than November and we capital plans come in November. A lot of work.
I think when you take a week or two off and start next year, it's not much more than that.
Barely gets it done until it's time to start again.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Any other questions about the budget or any other great presentations we've heard today?
different things here. But the one thing that she brought forward was the nonprofits. And I was looking at the nonprofits, and I'm looking, as she went down the list, she got down to our firing range, our indoor firing range. We spent $4 million for an indoor firing range, and it's going to cost $430,000 a year to run. David, you know, a while back, I'd like to, if we could, I know people like the arts. I would honestly like to go back to what I'd done a while back. That I would like to see if we could, you know, here's $500,000 that if we had that $500,000 to go with the state's $500,000, we could have had an outdoor gun range without having to worry about $430,000 electrical bill and maintenance of the place that the people of Buncombe County could utilize. In other places, they pay a fee to come. This is something that the people of Buncombe County can't utilize, period. So I was, as the people came in and wanted to borrow $50,000 to put signage up that was leaving the arts deal, I'd like to borrow that $500,000 that's going to be set aside and put matching funds for the $500,000 from the state and open us up a public gun range, because they've already done the drill, and they did hit rock, and the state was going to put it in for $500,000. And I hate to ask for money, but if we're going to spend money like this, I would like the public to have a place to go. They like people like art, there's people that still like to shoot guns. And so, see if we can't move some of this nonprofit money around. I mean, if we're going to give somebody $350,000 just to keep the lights on in a building, let's try to help somebody that we can put people to work, and it will fund itself.
Any other comments? Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something to Commissioner Fryer's comments. If that would help us with our deputies and our long guns, you know, I mean, we don't have a facility for long guns, so I mean, anything that we can do to help our deputies in that department, you know, I would certainly be for looking at. So.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments at this point? All right, well, our next step is we will have a public comment on the whole budget. That'll be next week. Let's see, yep, next week. And then 3 weeks from tonight, we'll vote on the final budget. Okay, any other matters to come before us today?
Yes, the airport.
Airport, thank you, that's right. Let's talk about the resolution authorizing the county manager to execute grant agreements for the Asheville Regional Airport. Grant.
This is a proposal for a grant from the FAA for $12.2 million, and $11 million of that would be used for the next phase of the airfield redevelopment. And that includes demolition, grading, drainage, and installation of the navigation aids for the permanent runway. As you know, the runway that's being built will be the permanent runway, and the current runway will be the taxiway. It also includes funding for a 1,500-gallon aircraft rescue and fire trucks, and it's all federal money coming to us, and I think it's as simple as applying and the check will come.
Good.
So this is a way to tap into, the federal is in charge of the federal aviation for obvious reasons, and this is a way to tap into money that they've already kind of winked and said you're probably going to get it.
Well, overall, when you have projects like this that they've approved, they'll do about 95% funding, but you have to still go through the application process and, of course, the financial management of it. But this is the application process, and we anticipate that we will get this grant.
Any questions or comments? Wonderful. They have a wonderful airport, and want to make it more wonderful. That's great.
Do we need a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion by Commissioner Vice Chair and a second by Commissioner Frost on this proposal. And I think Commissioner Belcher certainly wanted to hear about it and was very supportive of it, I understand. So any other comments? Four. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Then we go. Mr. Fryer stepped out as a courtesy, but no, that is majority. All right, any other matters coming forward?
Point of personal privilege.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say that on May the 20th, I had an opportunity to, on behalf of Chairman and other folks on the board, to go and make a presentation, proclamation on behalf of the county, naming the Lester Crossing for the Sergeant Jeff Hewitt. And it's a great turnout. And also had an opportunity to tour part of it. But I just want to take this opportunity to thank, I know he was here early, Sheriff Van Duncan, all of our deputies, and that family. It's just such a heartfelt time. But they, we talk about a lot of different people within the county. We was at the employee function today and what they do and how hard they work. And these folks run to danger when we run away from it. But I just want to thank the board for doing that. And it's just a great opportunity to be there. And I want to thank all those in our deputies and the leaders in there.
Thank you for representing us on that. Any other matters coming before the board tonight? Hearing none, I'll do the announcements. On June 7th, our regular meeting will be held in this building at 430 200 College Street, room 326. The meeting will include the public hearing on the budget, and we will have, look forward to hearing from folks about any questions or comments on that. Any other business to come before the board tonight? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. A motion by Commissioner Belcher. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Fryer. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. We are adjourned by 5-0 vote. Thank you for being here tonight.